So be it. Rational thinking only.
Horror games in recent years have slowly become more mainstream, thanks to hit franchises like Resident Evil, but there's still many in the genre that go under the radar. One of those games is Vampire. Developed by Don't Nod, the makers of the Life is Strange series, Vampire released in 2018 and was a completely different direction to Don't Nod's previous works. It released to mixed but leaning towards more positive reviews, with many people playing but feeling like it was a little bit rough around the edges. And I can see why people say this, as still to this day, Vampire is riddled with bugs, targeting and graphical issues. You have kind of a Souls-like combat paired with the majority of the game being very dialogue heavy. This game is definitely not for everyone, especially if you want combat to be the most fun part of the game. It's just not like that. What makes this game a masterpiece is its storytelling and world building. Now, I understand the perspective that Vampire is not really a traditional horror game. However, the setting and vibe is what really makes it feel horrific to play through. It's set in 1918's London and follows the aftermath of World War I, with the influenza outbreak being the main focal point of the story. You play as Jonathan Reid, a doctor who is a blood transfusion specialist. But Don't Nod added a twist in there. Vampires are looming presences that threaten the city, with Jonathan being turned against his will into one. As a doctor and a vampire, you must make decisions that decide the fate of London. Recovering from war, especially something as significant as World War I, was an extremely difficult time for many people, with the influenza adding to the list of problems. This game is very similar to its source material, which is literally based on real-life events, and that's the horror of it. It's realistic. This is truly what people lived through. And yes, it does add the vampiric element to it, which is obviously not realistic, but it adds that element of morality for the choices you make. Do you make the game easier by killing off citizens and potentially causing chaos, or remain a good person and kill no one, but the game is far more difficult? It's an extremely bleak world, with the characters expressing their concerns with what is happening around them. Some are just trying to get by, some are taking advantage of others. It also explores themes of the social dynamics in 1918, touching on discrimination, women's rights, forbidden relationships and more, all of which were still controversial topics back then. What seems a bit rough around the edges gameplay-wise turns into an absolute masterpiece in storytelling. As always, be prepared for a long ride with spoilers, and please drop a like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content.
Awaken from the harshness and be born once more.
You awake as Jonathan Reid, a man who has just come back from war in France, where he worked as a medical surgeon. There's a weird voice in our head as we stumble around. In the distance, an outline of a body and a pumping of a beating heart.
My sweet brother. What have you done?
Mary! Oh, no! Mary!
Jonathan can't control himself, and he ends up taking the life of a woman for blood, and only afterwards realizes it's his sister Mary. She had been looking for Jonathan for days when he sent a letter to his family saying he was coming back from the war. With no time to mourn her death, we are chased through the town by vigilantes, discover that the sun burns our skin, and take shelter in a safe house. Jonathan recalls more of what happened to him, that he was thrown in a pit of dead bodies, and looks into the mirror to see a bite mark on his neck. Taking a gun from a nearby body, he lays down on the bed and shoots himself in the chest. But he doesn't die, waking up in a pool of his own blood and realizes what he's become, a vampire. Escaping the vigilantes again, using our new vampiric powers to do so, we find a body that has been suspiciously drained of all blood. Following the trail, it leads us to the Turquoise Turtle pub, where the citizens explain that the murders have been happening recently in this part of town. Overhearing a conversation between a man and a woman, the woman disappears and we enter the room to get blasted by a cross. We learn of a man called Dr. Swansea who's investigating the murders. Since he quite clearly isn't the killer, we question the people in the pub again and they mention William Bishop, who had come in earlier and caused a ruckus. After finding him with a man called Sean Hampton, we take William down. Checking on Sean, William tries to go back in for seconds but is stabbed with a stake by the mysterious woman we heard in the conversation earlier. She hints that she is a vampire herself and mentions scowls, which is what William became, an infectious, aggressive form someone becomes when they contract a mysterious plague. Dr. Swansea appears again, and we travel on a boat towards Pembroke Hospital, but not before Jonathan takes a blood sample from William's body. Swansea tells Jonathan he would like him to work at the hospital, recognizing him due to his previous work as a blood specialist. A night shift and a room to himself to hide, Jonathan accepts. Arriving at the hospital, we meet the head nurse, Dorothy Crane. We witness a man kill another and push him into the river, and here we get our first choice of whether to be a blood-sucking murderer or not. You can lure citizens into a dark place and kill them, gaining XP. After talking for an extraordinary amount of time to the patients and staff, we rest in our room for the night. When we wake up, Nurse Crane asks us to get some medical supplies from the morgue, which had been shut off for some time due to sanitary reasons. In other terms, it's been taken over by Scal. We gather the medical supplies, fight this placeholder named man, John Doe, and head back to the hospital to give Nurse Crane the supplies. Our next task is given by Dr. Swansea, who explains that the main beneficiary of the hospital is being blackmailed, jeopardizing her position. It's none other than Lady Ashbury, the vampire lady we met earlier. She wants us to find who the blackmailer is and take care of it. Heading into a patient room, we meet Harriet Jones, who is very important later on in the story. She points us in the direction of the nurses in the hospital, but not without some vulgar language. Following this information, we find Nurse Crane leaving on a boat, giving a man a free medical exam pass. Following him into the sewers to find out where this medical exam is taking place, we fight the sewer beast, a werewolf-looking monster. The man died to this beast, but at least we find the location of where we need to head next, a man named Darius Petrescu in Whitechapel. This is where the game starts to open up. We fight many vigilantes known as the Garda Priwen, who are specifically hunting scales and vampires. We also fight Roger, or the Wall, on our way. In Whitechapel, we must find information on this Petrescu guy, who is protecting an illegal infirmary that Nurse Crane made to provide free healthcare to people in Whitechapel. Discovering that Nurse Crane is actually the blackmailer of Lady Ashbury, and after failing to save a patient and taking a blood sample, we must make the first major choice in the game.
You've convinced me of the sincerity of your actions and their noble justifications. But all the same, blackmail is a crime, and it will stop, Nurse Crane.
So, are you going to turn me over to the authorities?
There's 3 choices for Nurse Crane: embrace her, spare her, or charm her. Embracing her is just killing her off for XP. If you spare her, you make her resign from the Pembroke Hospital and she continues to work at Whitechapel. The charm option forces Nurse Crane to forget all about the blackmail, but it completely ruins her mind, causing her to turn into a scowl and losing the pillar of Whitechapel. With the blackmailer taken care of one way or the other, we head back to the hospital, fight two lads, Toby and Vincent Sheen, and find Lady Ashbury, who is feeding on a patient in the hospital, proving the blackmail to be true. She explains that she only feeds upon the dying. She will react differently depending on your decision with Nurse Crane, and answer your questions about vampires, or econs, which is the proper term. Analysing the blood from the patient earlier, we start to wonder if there's a connection between the Spanish flu and the vampire epidemic, and talk to Dr. Swansea about it. The Spanish flu seems to make people act violently, and it's spreading quickly. Then Swansea gives us the news that Mary, our sister we killed at the start, is being buried in Whitechapel Cemetery. Heading there, we discreetly watch Joseph the vicar, Emmeline, Jonathan's mother, and Avery, the Reid family butler, pay their respects to Mary. His mother places a rose on her grave. Feeling remorseful, Jonathan is persuaded by Lady Ashbury to head to the vicar to confess if he thinks it would make him feel better. We meet a massive vampire man who warns us that Ascalon, a society of econs, does not approve of Jonathan being a lone wolf. Heading to Whitechapel's church, you can choose what to say to Joseph. On our way back to the hospital, we meet a mysterious entity shrouded in red. It turns out to be Jonathan's maker, but he does not explain much. Back in the hospital, we are greeted not so kindly by Geoffrey McCullum, the leader of the Guard of Priwen. He immediately recognises Jonathan as a vampire and is here to look for this vampire activity. After giving us a warning and leaving, Swansea tells us that the hospital has been attacked in our absence. Harriet Jones has apparently been slaughtered by none other than Sean Hampton, the man we saved right at the start of the game. He has fled the scene and gone back to the docks, so that's where we go next. Back at the Turquoise Turtle pub, another person has been murdered and drained of blood. After asking people about Sean's whereabouts, we are led to his night shelter in the East End docks. He has clearly been infected and is slowly turning into a scowl. He explains that he didn't kill Harriet Jones, and he gives us a key to find her in the sewers. In the sewers, we find the massive vampire man again, who's called Fergal. We gotta take him down to progress. We find some bloodstains that lead us to a very strange place. Scowls are living peacefully in the sewers, under aid by old Bridget. We find Harriet Jones here, who has mutated into a scowl full of hatred. She explains that she didn't kill anyone on the escape from the hospital because Sean stopped her, despite her wanting to kill. Back at Sean's night shelter, we must make our decision on what to do with Sean.
I have come to embrace the everlasting craving. I have sworn to feed only upon the flesh of the dead. It is now my sacrament. Take, eat. This is my body. So saith the Lord.
Clearly a scowl, he poses a threat to the docks if he ends up snapping. You can embrace him, killing him yourself. Sparing him causes him to turn into a nasty scowl who can't control himself, causing the docks to turn into chaos. And finally, you can turn him into a vampire by making him drink your blood. This is the only way to keep him alive, or unalive I guess, since he will become a vampire. He continues to help others at his night shelter. Once our decision is made, we discover another body directly outside. What's strange is that Jonathan's mother's brooch is found next to it. We are led to 29 Pretty Orchard Street and follow more blood to a woman who is dead, strung up on a tree, with a rose in her mouth. It's the same rose that was placed on Mary's grave. Then we see a familiar figure, who we chase to the cemetery again. Here we find the vicar, who is not happy to see us, and Jonathan's mother is here, accompanied by none other than Mary herself, who has been reborn as a vampire at the hand of Jonathan. She wants revenge for what she has become. She threatens to kill Emmeline, and depending on how many lives you have taken up until this point, she will either kill or not kill her. After this, we fight her, with this cutscene playing after.
Well,
Brother, it's time to bring this conversation to an end. Forever.
You know I will not play this game.
Calm now, Doctor. Like a rabid dog. Or think you're performing an autopsy?
Don't be ridiculous.
I'll kill them all. The kind Dr. Swansea. The sweet little lass with hair of red. I am the Harbinger, bringing your punishment.
Mary.
Don't you see? This is not me. Flesh that never ages. All nightmare, no dream. Bring it to a close. Let me sleep.
I will find a cure, Mary. I swear it.
Then, at last, I can forgive you.
Burying her for the last time, she is finally laid to rest properly. We awake in the hospital again, and Lady Ashbury has sent us a letter to meet her at her mansion. On our way, we see Ekons have started to roam the street, who will pose another threat to you as you traverse. Speaking to Lady Ashbury, she explains that we've attracted the attention of the Ascalon Club, the powerful Ekon society that Fergal mentioned. Run by Lord Redgrave, the Ascalon Club has many influential figures in the society that are not immortal, with Aloysius Dawson being the main one, the richest man in London. The Guard of Priwen have started a great hunt against all Ekons, so we are invited to the Ascalon Club to join forces with them. Before we leave, Lady Ashbury, or Elizabeth as she now says to call her, makes us touch her chest to feel her beating heart. And it's here we start to figure out that these two like each other romantically. The Ascalon Club is in the centre of the rich district, the West End, which is where Jonathan's family lives. We go to meet Lord Redgrave, who is impressed that we took down Fergal, who was a servant for the Ascalon Club. He was a Volcod, which generally looked like werewolves, although he looked a bit different. He also has seen how powerful Mary became with Jonathan's blood, and thinks that we will be an incredibly powerful ally. We enter an agreement with the club, and write our name in our own blood in a book.
Delightful. Welcome to the Ascalon Club, Dr. Reid.
He gives us the task to investigate cases of contagion in the West End and put an end to it. We head to the source points, fight some scowls, and discover letters that point to Doris Fletcher, a famous actress. We make our way to her theatre and find out what she has become, a dangerous scowl. We take her down and she burns herself alive. Before we can leave, McCullum and the Guard of Priwen arrive, who planned to take Doris down themselves. Seeing that we took her down already, he decides to let us go peacefully for now. With our task done, we head back to Lord Redgrave, with our next task being a lot more important. He wants us to turn Aloysius Dawson into a vampire. This is a tough decision, as Aloysius is a greedy man that plans to only help the rich and abandon the poor, but not turning him will make you an outcast with the Ekon society.
Finally you're here, Dr. Reid. What took you so long?
I had to pass several of your barricades and outposts to access your mansion, sir.
Death, pestilence surround us, and time is against me.
I see you've gathered some of the most expensive, albeit experimental, blood transfusion equipment available. All this could be so useful in a hospital.
Yes. Since Lord Redgrave sent me a doctor to perform my conversion, I thought you might find some of these devices useful.
Most thoughtful. But tonight I'm not here as a physician.
But I feel reassured that a specialist such as yourself would help me to escape the Reaper.
There's 3 choices, as you've probably gathered by now: embrace, turn, and charm. If you turn him, the Ascalon Club is pleased. However, Elizabeth is not, as she thinks Aloysius is a horrible man. If you charm him, he leaves all his money to the poor and dies the next day, which Elizabeth is happy with. You'll be banished from the Ascalon Club, and the vampires from the society will start hunting you on the streets. Old Bridget meets us again and informs us that the Guard of Prewen plan to attack the hospital, since they are aware of Swansea being associated with vampires. Getting to the hospital, Swansea is nowhere to be found, so we follow a blood trail upstairs. McCullum is here, and he blames us and Swansea for creating the epidemic, finding proof in the theatre. He drinks a drop of King Arthur's blood, who he says is stronger than our powers, and then we proceed to beat the shit out of him, so I guess he was wrong. After he's beaten to the ground, you can spare him and leave him be, or turn him to punish him, as he would finally become what he hates, a vampire. Since McCullum told us where to go next, it's time to go back to Doris Fletcher's theatre. Searching around and finding Swansea, we discover that he's been using Elizabeth's blood that she graciously donated to the hospital to try and find a cure for the Spanish influenza.
Doris and Harriet shared more than a hidden family bond. They were the embodiment of the epidemic and are linked to the Pembroke Hospital. Come on, Edgar, this is no coincidence.
I swear I'm at a complete loss. All I did was administer vampire blood to cure old Harriet. There was no evil plan, no diabolical plot.
You did what?
I tested the regenerating and healing properties of vampire blood on Harriet Jones. My only intention was to find the cure for influenza, I swear.
Whose blood did you use? William Marshall's? Mine?
Lady Ashbury's. While transfusing her with human blood, humanely appeasing her hunger, I also kept samples of her blood for my research.
You used her blood on Harriet Jones? My God, Edgar, that's unethical. You betrayed 2 of your patients at the same time.
I made a mistake. But what is science if not trial and error? We both know it, Jonathan, we both know it.
What a poor justification for your morbid fascination and thirst for glory.
You have worked beside me. You saw what I'm doing at Pembroke Hospital. Jonathan, you know I'm not an evil soul. Just another victim of this tragedy.
He used her blood on Harriet Jones, with the blood reacting negatively, mutating her into a vicious scowl. We also find out that Doris Fletcher's real name is Doris Jones, and is the daughter of Harriet. She got infected when going to see her mother in the hospital, with Jonathan piecing together that they both had an extreme hatred and strong physical mutation. Doris ended up infecting many people, using her fame and shows to attract people to their demise. All of this information leads to the fact that Swansea is the cause of the Scowl epidemic. This leads to the hardest decision of the game. Minutes away from dying, we have the choice of embracing him, turning him, or letting him die. Turning him seems like a good choice, but when you next see him, you can tell he's become a ruthless killer by his eyes, and he continues experimenting. Letting him die does seem harsh though, considering he helped you so much through the story. While his actions were super reckless, he says that he didn't know that it would cause the Scowl epidemic. The choice is hard, but unfortunately we have to make one. In the theatre, there's a document called William Marshall's Memoirs, which is a key to the next part of the story. William Marshall is one of the most powerful vampires to ever exist in London, and he apparently outlines a cure for the blood of hate. We visit Elizabeth to inquire about a possible antidote to stop the disaster, who we now know is Harriet Jones. We delivered the news to her about Swansea using her blood. She disappears, and now we must look for 3 ingredients to save what's left of the city. First is William Marshall's blood, which is found at the Ascalon Club. Lord Redgrave will hand it over. Next is back to the morgue at the start, to find insulin, as a substitute for garlic mentioned in William's memoirs. And finally, McCullum is found in the cemetery. We head there to get a drop of King Arthur's blood, which McCullum took a sip of earlier. We make the concoction at a hideout and finally head to the sewers to the Scowl hideout to find Harriet and end this epidemic once and for all. When we enter the hideout, all the Scowls have been slaughtered. Following a blood trail, we meet our maker again, who explains that he is called many names but gives us the name Merthin. There's a lot of information that I don't understand here, but essentially a great disaster has been created by the Red Queen, who wants to purge London. The Great Disaster has happened 3 times in history, and Merthin made Jonathan a vampire so he could lay her to rest until she tries again. We head into the final boss fight, and it starts with Disaster Harriet. The Red Queen will then appear, and upon taking her down, there is a cutscene with Merthin and the Red Queen. Merthin is the Red Queen's son, and he encourages her to go back to sleep until the next disaster. Old Bridget then appears and thanks us, and that's the end of the fighting, but we still have someone to talk to. To find out why Elizabeth's blood caused the disaster, we head to her castle in Scotland and talk to Merthin one more time. He explains that William Marshall is his son alongside Jonathan. Exploring the castle and finding many interesting notes about Lady Ashbury, we solve a puzzle to enter a secret passage. Elizabeth is here, with none other than William Marshall himself. Essentially, William Marshall is Lady Ashbury's maker, his daughter, and William Marshall's blood is where the blood of hate came from in the first place. He sought to make an antidote for the blood of hate and gave the cure to Elizabeth, meaning he is now forever confined in this castle. After the final long dialogue, Elizabeth finally decides it's time after he's suffered for so long. She kills William Marshall, slicing his head clean off. We then get this scene.
Farewell, Father. And to you also, Jonathan.
What do you mean?
I can't stand what I've become. This healthy carrier, as you put it. The flames will purify the poison that runs in my veins.
No! I won't allow this to happen.
I am death, Jonathan. Wherever I go, I can't stand it.
Elizabeth wants to end it all by walking into the fire. Here you can get 4 different endings depending on your choices throughout the game. The best ending has Jonathan and Elizabeth leave the castle for America, trying to find a cure for Elizabeth's blood of hate. The best ending is where you do not kill a single person by embracing them throughout the game. It's also apparently depending on your choices with the pillars in the game. In my best ending playthrough, I spared Dorothy Crane, turned Sean Hampton, charmed Aloysius Dawson, spared McCullum, and turned Swansea. In the other good ending, Jonathan and Elizabeth stay in the castle to create a cure by isolating themselves from the world. Old Bridget helps them by collecting blood for them. To get this, you must only kill a few citizens and keep the district stable. The first bad ending, Elizabeth commits suicide into the fire, and Jonathan lives out his days in isolation, completely depressed. This is achieved by killing off a lot of citizens and making one district plunge into hostile territory. Apparently turning Aloysius Dawson is part of this ending too. And finally, the worst ending. Elizabeth commits suicide and Jonathan goes on a huge killing spree, becoming a bloodthirsty vampire. It's self-explanatory. Kill off most of the citizens and let the districts turn hostile to get this. The main story for Vampire is compelling, but seems a bit rushed. The romance, while it made sense, just kinda happened with no build-up. And while some of the choices are a bit confusing, they really matter as the world changes due to them. I also really felt for the main characters and pillars. Even though they may be doing wrong, they are just trying to get by. While the main storyline is solid, I feel like the bulk of the masterful storytelling comes from all the side content.
Blood. As I shed one last red tear for my fallen sister, I realize the entire world now revolves around this singular word. The epidemic that has stricken London is not the Spanish flu. It is transmitted through the blood, via violent biting, turning survivors into frenzied immortals. I am Dr. Jonathan Reid. I am a vampire, born anew into an age of death and pestilence.
I am completely obsessed with this game, so I'm going to go through every single character in each district. Yes, every single character on these pages that you see, as well as the main pillars and the characters who you meet along the way that aren't tied to a district. There's around 70 characters in total, and I'll start with non-district NPCs and then move on to the districts. This is honestly quite insane to do, but I did say it was going to be a long ride. Let's start with Jonathan Reid himself. He comes from a rich family, however he worked hard in his career as a surgeon. It wasn't just handed to him. He's very humble and he always tries to see the best in the citizens of London, despite them doing wrong. He is accepting of all walks of life, but doesn't hesitate to mention something when he thinks there's a problem. He's such a likable protagonist, especially if you go down the best ending route. The voice actor, Anthony Howell, did an amazing job at portraying Jonathan's feelings. You can tell when Jonathan disapproves of something or someone, or when he feels sorry and empathetic. Honestly, the whole cast of voice actors are some of the best in my opinion, but Jonathan needed to be fantastic and he really pulls it off. My favourite scenes from the main story involve Mary. When you kill Mary right at the start, Jonathan immediately breaks down and tries to save her. He will reference her throughout the story and takes accountability for killing her. When you have to defeat her in the cemetery, Mary has to convince Jonathan to kill her. He really doesn't want to do it, showing that he still cares for her in her vampire form too. I will say that Jonathan has some pitfalls when it comes to his mother in the game. You can go and visit Emmeline, but her brain is kinda messed up from Mary mesmerising her. I understand Jonathan's predicament of now being a vampire and not wanting his own mother to see what he has become, but she's just kind of there. It's his mother, and I think you'd expect more interaction between them. I actually find it hard to talk about Jonathan because you, as the player, can shape his character depending on your preferences. But that's what makes this game great. It's not just an illusion of choice. Everything you do matters, especially when it comes to killing citizens. Sometimes you may think you're doing the right thing by killing someone who's awful, but it could actually grant more of a negative effect on the other characters you kill rather than a positive one. Jonathan's eyes also change colour the more citizens you kill. They start off normal, but as soon as you kill one person, his sclera on both eyes turn red. It advances further, his pupils becoming more like slits, and finally red irises. There's not a lot of information on why no one in this game comments on how his eyes change, but it's probably just for the player to see some sort of morality scale. A post on Tumblr from 12 Dreams for the Red Queen explores this in detail, so I'll link it below as it's an interesting read.
I can't lose you, Elizabeth. Even if it means putting the whole world at risk.
How can you say such an awful thing? Where is the Jonathan I once saved from a scowl in this abandoned factory?
I'm not that frightened man anymore. I've learned so much. Done so much.
I see. So there is nothing worth living for in this world anymore. Farewell, my love.
Farewell.
Next is Elizabeth Ashbury, Jonathan Reid's love interest and fellow vampire. I kind of like her character, but the romance feels really rushed with Jonathan. They have some nice neutral conversations, and then Jonathan goes to a house and feels her chest. In that moment something changes and they're now lovers. I don't know if it's just some vampire thing where they just know they are made for each other, but yeah, there's no explanation. Elizabeth is very well spoken and generally a good person. While she does have some issues, like taking blood from the humans at the hospital, she has to live somehow, and there's definitely not many animals about. Elizabeth has clearly gone through some shit in the past, but it doesn't help that the only people who would understand her, the other vampires and the Ascalon Club, ostracize her for being a woman. She probably finds happiness when meeting Jonathan, as she finally has someone to relate to. Perhaps this is why their relationship sprung so suddenly too, as they both felt alone and realised they could rely on each other. Elizabeth has an adopted daughter. Despite her issues that stem from being a vampire, she still adopted her and raised her all on her own. She even refuses to turn her into a vampire, which I think is a very moral thing to do. Other than that, she is just kind of there as a catalyst for causing the epidemic. Elizabeth is needed for the plot, but she's not really fleshed out enough in my opinion. We can't mention Elizabeth without William Marshall too. William Marshall, the first Earl of Pembroke, is actually a real person born in the 1100s. He was a knight and served King Henry I until he passed, who is also mentioned in Vampire. Vampire then took this history and shaped it so that he would be a vampire instead, having lived through centuries to eventually die in 1918. Honestly, there's so much real-life history poured into this game that I'm only finding out because I'm researching for this video. I also wouldn't be surprised if Elizabeth's castle is based off Pembroke Castle, the real place where William Marshall owned and lived during his life. Maybe just a coincidence too, but I like how they took the name Pembroke for the hospital's name, potentially foreshadowing this history. I'm not going to delve too deep into William Marshall, but he essentially had to beat the Red Queen, the same as Jonathan, to save London for a time. He got infected with the blood of hate from her, which he then got rabid-like symptoms and ended up infecting Elizabeth. After seeing her go on a rampage herself, he made a cure for the blood of hate, but it was only enough for one dose. He gave it to Elizabeth, which stopped the symptoms, and lived out the rest of his life trapped because it would cause problems if he was let out. Elizabeth still had the blood in her veins, and while she didn't have symptoms herself, she was able to pass it on to others, causing the epidemic with Harriet Jones. Elizabeth didn't want to kill William for years, because she saw him as her father, which is kind of right in a way since William turned her in the first place. Of course, he went out of his way to cure her and not himself, so I can imagine she didn't want to kill him because of that. It took the Red Queen coming back to cause London's downfall again to realise that there can't be any carriers left in the world, as it's too dangerous, and so she finally kills him. She intends to kill herself too, which we see, but of course you can save her depending on the ending. It is quite a well thought out story when you get deeper, even with some confusing parts.
How long will this masquerade continue? I've been watching you. All these nights in Whitechapel pretending you're still a doctor. You believe you're just fighting a disease, but it's you, the disease. Jonathan, you!
I'm a scientist. I'll find a solution. Let our mother go, please.
You're always the one to sway me to reason, Jonathan, but before your motivations were always pure. Now you're tainted.
Let her go! She has no part to play in this.
Very well. Have you heard our good doctor? You can go home, Mother. Go home and rest in peace.
When we first meet Mary Reid, she literally just dies to the teeth of Jonathan. What's crazy is that somehow some of Jonathan's blood gets on her lip, and that's enough to turn her into a vampire. Yeah, it's pretty insane, but it is a good twist. Mary is so distraught from the fact that her own brother made her into a monster that she seeks revenge at all costs. She murders many innocent people in the streets to gain your attention and leaves clues for you to find. Your mother's brooch, the rose from her grave, a pocket watch which you can steal if you wish. For the final showdown, she brings the vicar, Joseph Lambury, and Jonathan and Mary's mother, Emmeline Reid, to the graveyard. There's some interesting things that she does depending on choices you've made. If you've killed off a few citizens at this point, there is a potential for her to kill Emmeline here, which means you won't be able to visit your mother later. This makes sense, considering she has been watching your every move. She knows you've already killed people, and is even more infuriated with you. Apparently, stealing the pocket watch also increases the likelihood of her killing Emmeline. The dialogue before Mary's fight heavily changes in this circumstance.
Time to go, Mother. Give my regards to my son.
No! No!
Oh. what I do to those I cherish. Can you imagine what I've in mind for you?
I'll destroy you!
Finally, we hear the truth! Dr. Reid, admit it. You're a monster who takes joy in killing, who relishes the chase, the secrecy of it all.
I'm still a scientist. I shall find a cure for this madness.
You lie to yourself. Confess your sins.
Over the slaughtered corpse of our mother!
The vicar sitting in the middle of the boss fight arena is quite infuriating for many. If you decide to feed on him, it instantly voids the Not Even Once achievement, which is gained for not embracing any citizens. It makes sense, but it's quite easy to accidentally embrace him. He's right there, ready for you. Luckily, Mary will have a snack on him if you get her to around half health, taking him out so you won't accidentally eat him yourself. Mary is such an interesting character, and she was very close to being great, but she ends up being wasted potential in Vampire. She was definitely the villain in the game that struck me the most, and would have been a great main antagonist rather than a short mid-game boss fight. I mean, she stalks you through the streets and murders people to try and get back at you, which really builds up tension and gives the player a sense of dread as they roam the streets of London. But ultimately, it's very short-lived, which makes it a bit disappointing.
Ultraviolet curtains and orichalcum powder. Dr. Swansea's always been a resourceful bastard. I bet he never told you he had this installed in case of a vampire attack. Says a lot about how much he trusts you.
What have you done with Edgar?
Don't worry. We don't kill humans.
Geoffrey McCullum is very charming. Maybe it's his Irish accent, or that he's very handsome, but I think he makes a good antagonist. He's not really shown too much, but pops up where he needs to. Leader of the Guard of Priwen, pretty much the only task they do is hunt down vampires, and Geoffrey does this with you for around half the game. Geoffrey actually has a reason for his disdain of vampires. His father accidentally became one and murdered his mother right in front of him. This happened when he was young, which would be enough to traumatize him for life. Based on this, he made it his mission to keep hunting vampires in the world, and therefore became one of the most infamous vampire hunters known. Geoffrey watches your every move throughout the game, until he finds the proof he needs to incriminate you. Once he does, he sets up a fight in the hospital, using Swansea's contraptions to help him. Yes, Swansea had built a massive vampire trap, made out of ultraviolet curtains and orichalcum powder if he were to ever need it. Geoffrey uses this to his advantage, but still gets beaten. After this, Geoffrey is still adamant that you are the problem. He says he will hunt you down forever unless you take him out, but you don't get that choice anyway. It's either spare or turn him. Sparing him is definitely the right option. Turning him gives you this lovely scene.
Prepare yourself, Hunter. You're about to be hunted, just like me.
No! No!
When I kissed my poor mother goodbye, I had no idea what I was doing. But now I do. Consider this my kiss of Judas. Welcome to the world through the looking glass.
Yeah, I bet the fanfic people love that one. Turning him just seems cruel, as he really doesn't want to become a vampire. There's practically no difference when you visit him later between turning him or not. Just a theory, but maybe him drinking King Arthur's blood turns him into a vampire anyway, despite our choice with him. It would make sense, as King Arthur was a powerful vampire. However, I don't think Geoffrey knew he was when he took a sip. I don't think he'd be willing to doom himself by turning into a vampire because of his disdain towards them. It's all very confusing. But Geoffrey is great as a minor antagonist, and is definitely one of my favourite characters not related to a district in the game.
So it's over then, young Ekon. You have put an end to this terrible menace.
Old Bridget? What are you doing here?
This is my realm, Ekon. This is Suascal territory.
While old Bridget and Lord Redgrave are minor characters, they still play a part in the overall journey you have. Bridget is basically a messenger. She will appear and give you information at certain times throughout the game. She's first found in the Scowl hideout and helps Scowls to live peacefully underground. After the final boss fight, old Bridget appears and tells us her interesting backstory. She was born in 1738, and her husband had tried to preserve her young beauty by making her drink his blood. Her husband was none other than Lord Redgrave, who believed that he had been created by William Marshall. By seeing old Bridget, we can tell that he clearly did not have the powerful blood he thought he did. She became a Scowl, although she is a sane one, but deformed nonetheless from it. Lord Redgrave then rejected her after it did not go successfully. Bridget is just a nice person who was wronged by her husband.
My good friends, if I may have your attention. Behold our visitor, the good Dr. Reid. Newborn of blood so pure and strong that even my friend Fergal Bansher was no match for him.
Hear, hear, hear.
As for Lord Redgrave, he seems pretty neutral at first. In fact, he's rather nice to Jonathan unless you decide to betray him. He invites you to the Ascalon Club despite you killing his bodyguard Fergal. However, you start to realise that his intention was to rope you into doing stuff for his own benefit. With Aloysius Dawson, he essentially forces you to turn him, or else you'll be an outcast. If you do turn him, all will be well in the Ascalon Club. If you don't, the vampires from the club will actually be out in the world, ready to hunt you down, which is a really nice detail. He's a pretty selfish guy by the end of it. He also seems to have a problem with women. Of course, there's old Bridget to mention again, but it isn't just her. The Ascalon Club does not let any women inside at all, even if they're a powerful vampire. It's spoken about with Lady Ashbury, although she does appear in the Ascalon Club later on.
Slowly, vampire. Who are you? I mean you no harm, saith the vampire. Present yourself.
I need a word. Anyone?
Well, that's something I can do for you.
The first district you can fully explore is Pembroke Hospital, with Dr. Swansea being the pillar. What is really fantastic about this game is that many citizens have small social circles. Every single choice you make affects these relationships and causes interesting things to happen. People go missing or turn into Scowls, they can join gangs, or you may find them in slightly different locations around the districts. They will give you extra dialogue based on how they are feeling if you start killing people in their circle. Of course, some people don't have a circle, so there's no real consequence for killing them, just some free XP and the guilt you may or may not carry for killing a loner. Killing off a pillar character affects the entire district, so you really have to make your decisions wisely if you want to save everyone. It's a very in-depth mechanic, which I never really explored until making a video, as I have always gone for a pacifist playthrough. But it's really worth exploring the different outcomes you get for killing people. It's absolutely brilliant at making this world feel alive, and makes you think about the implications of your actions. Firstly, let's talk about Dr. Swansea. Swansea saves you right at the start of the game, and gives you the room in Pembroke to carry out your research discreetly. Obviously he knows you're a vampire, but that doesn't stop him from being kind and helping you on your journey. He never breaks your trust by telling anyone you are a vampire, and constantly points you in the right direction. He even looks up to Jonathan, as he attended some of his seminars before the war, expressing admiration for his research. A very well-spoken, likeable man throughout most of the game. Swansea is also part of the Brotherhood of St. Paul's Stole, a secret society dedicated to researching Echons. The society keeps tabs on vampires, but rarely acts on taking them down, rather collecting items and evidence of their actions. Towards the end of the game, Swansea's dark truth comes out, that he had experimented with Elizabeth's vampire blood to try and cure Harriet Jones, which inevitably backfired and caused the Skal epidemic. This is an extremely immoral thing to do, but I can also see that maybe he just wanted to try and help the epidemic situation by using these extremist measures, hoping to find a cure for the disease. He states that that was his intention, and it's clear he didn't mean to cause the epidemic. He had no way of knowing Elizabeth's blood was tainted. We see with McCullum that vampire blood can be used to enhance abilities. Injecting blood in ill patients could have been a really useful tool. This was the hardest choice for me in the game, because I still like Swansea despite his awful decisions. He helps the sick by running the only hospital in the area, helps Jonathan literally stay alive. I mean, Jonathan would probably be dead if he didn't meet Swansea. I personally didn't embrace any pillars, so looking at the other two options, letting him die or turning him is a real dilemma. Letting him die makes the Pembroke Hospital plunge into chaos, without a true leader. The district's health plummets the most out of any district if you kill a pillar off. It really seems like a bad choice here, but I do think turning him is actually worse. If you visit him after turning him at the hospital, his eyes are blood red, a sign that he's been mercilessly killing off people for their blood. While Jonathan intended Swansea to think about his actions for eternity, it has the opposite effects and makes Swansea very happy he is immortal to continue experimenting immorally. He does not show any remorse for his actions, which really just sucks. I want to love Swansea, but you have to think carefully about his intentions, but it also just makes him a fantastic character despite not being likable by some. I'll be highlighting a lot of small details in Vampire, and Swansea has a couple of these. After turning him, the citizens express joy that he has come back, and that he's more happy and helpful as ever. But you can speak to Thomas, one of the patients, who thinks a little differently. Swansea approached him in the night and sniffed his neck, then left without a word, gave him the right willies it did. Speaking to Harvey, another patient, he says that Swansea asked him if he would allow him to be experimented on, further proving the point that Swansea is better dead than immortal. These are minute little dialogue choices that you would completely miss if you didn't strike up any more conversations after the fact, and since it's near the end of the game, most people probably don't. It just shows how much care and time was put into the game to add these small things to world build even more.
How can I be sure I'll not find your unconscious body in the house again?
I promise you, you'll not find my unconscious body.
For God's sake, how can you say such a thing?
How can you refuse to listen? I tried to warn you for so long.
No, I won't let my only son die. You promised me you'll stay alive.
Your son lied to you, like the whole world lies to us.
As you talk to the many citizens throughout the game, you can learn clues about them and slowly gain more conversational topics the more you find out. Many also have side quests which involve a choice to make, which is completely optional content. It's quite overwhelming just how much dialogue is in this game, but it's also worth exploring each and every one of the characters, as they all have their own intriguing backstories to help with building this post-war world. Nothing really happens if you kill off characters with no circle, so I didn't do that in my playthrough. You also learn character stories when you embrace them, which adds more context to each person. Moving on to the citizens of Pembroke, we'll start with Beatrice and Mortimer Goswick. When first meeting Mortimer, he barely can or wants to speak to you, and you can see clearly that there's a wound on his neck. He attempted to take his own life unsuccessfully, which in turn led his mother Beatrice to bring him to the hospital to get treatment. Eavesdropping on their conversation, you can clearly tell Mortimer's not happy with his life at all, and Beatrice expresses her feelings quite forcefully, telling him that he will not die as he is her only son. Speaking to Beatrice, she is aware that attempting to take your own life is a crime, and therefore she hid it from the doctors to protect Mortimer. She came into a lot of money when her husband died, and therefore would pay any amount to save her son. Talking to Mortimer, he sends us to his house to retrieve his suicide note he addressed to his mother, and this is one of the many side quests in the game. Retrieving it and reading, we discover that he would keep trying to die, and he can't be convinced otherwise. You can either give it to him so his secret is kept safe, or give it to Beatrice so she knows that he will keep trying. It doesn't really matter what you pick in this instance. I personally gave it to Mortimer, as I did not want to betray his trust. If you embrace Beatrice, Mortimer appears more active and starts walking around the hospital freely, rather than being cooped up in his room. He says that his mother dying forced him to stop drowning in his self-loathing and learn to live again. He realizes the consequences of his actions, how his mother must have felt seeing him dying. He even says he might use his inheritance money to fund the hospital, although he hopes it might encourage them to overlook his situation. You can tell by talking to Beatrice that she's quite a controlling and overbearing mother, and Mortimer must have quite a hard time dealing with her. However, you can tell that she truly loves her son. If you decide to embrace Mortimer, it's quite a different outcome. Beatrice becomes angry and devastated that her son died under your watch and starts protesting outside the Pembroke. She intends to use her money to take the Pembroke down.
Good evening, Mr. Fiddick. How are you tonight?
Look closer and ask me that question again, you fucking idiot.
Please calm down and tell me what happened.
I lost my fucking arm because of this hospital, that's what happened.
The next social circle involves Harvey Fiddick, a patient in the hospital, and two of the doctors, Thoreau Strickland and Waverley Ackroyd. There's a quest for finding some missing ingredients for Strickland, which starts by finding a dead man who has a list of what he ordered. Jonathan realizes that these are very dangerous substances, and that Strickland could create a lethal poison if he wasn't careful with the correct dosage. Strickland asks if you can help find those ingredients and improve his formula. Doing so, you can choose to give the medication you made to him, or report his risky formula to Ackroyd. As for Harvey, he was involved in an accident at work that damaged his arm, and is hoping that the doctors can fix it so he can keep providing for his daughters. This is where the two doctors come in, as they both want to operate on Harvey's arm. Strickland is experimental with his approach to being a doctor, largely unsuccessful in anything he's tried. As an admirer of Jonathan, he wants to try a blood transfusion technique on Harvey to fix his arm. There's a letter written by Ackroyd to Swansea, asking him to forbid Strickland to perform any procedures on Harvey. Ackroyd and Strickland clearly don't see eye to eye. Quite the opposite, Ackroyd does not take warmly to Jonathan at all, due to Jonathan's success in the media. He thinks he does it for money, rather than actually wanting to help people. Ackroyd doesn't like any new techniques, and sticks to what is known to work. There's a letter you can find which he writes to Swansea about Nurse Brannigan, complaining that she diagnosed and administered treatment to a patient without consulting a doctor, and that she should be held under the strictest authority. He's clearly a bit misogynistic, but it adds another element to what it was like back then, and while there were women doctors before this, it was the start of women being more prominent in the medical field due to lack of male doctors after the war. There's also a letter from Tippett to Swansea, explaining that a looming promotion for Ackroyd was discussed. Tippett believes he is a great doctor, but should not be promoted at this time due to having too much of an ego. You actually don't see any advancement in Harvey's injury unless you decide to embrace Strickland or Ackroyd. Killing Strickland means Ackroyd operates on him, and it's a success. Harvey's arm starts to recover, and he starts wandering around the hospital, helping out to earn some money to pay for his medical bills. He is in great spirits and even mentions his daughters have come to see him in the hospital. Ackroyd actually seems upset that Strickland is dead, but remains stoic otherwise. He gets promoted at the hospital, but feels uneasy about it due to the circumstances. If you kill Ackroyd, Strickland's experimental transfusion procedure fails, and Harvey loses his arm for good. Understandably, we find Harvey with his head in his hands and incredibly angry at the hospital and Strickland. Talking to Strickland, he is more concerned that he failed the surgery rather than the loss of Ackroyd. He's more angry at the fact that he was wrong in his experimentation and that Ackroyd was right all along. Embracing both doctors makes Harvey lose his arm with no one to help him recover. Killing Harvey does not have any real consequences, however both Strickland and Ackroyd will be very angry. Ackroyd outright accuses you, saying that you and Swansea are acting strange and one day will have to provide answers. The fact that Harvey's arm lies in your hand, depending on who you kill, is an impressive detail that you wouldn't find unless you killed either of the doctors.
Are you all right, Miss Howcroft?
They were tracking me, hunting me down. After the death of Thomas, they came to the hospital. They said I killed him.
But you're safe now. Those men won't bother you anymore, I promise.
Did you hear them? They recognized me as a vampire. I knew it. I knew it.
Thomas Elwood and Thelma Hawcroft seem like underwhelming characters at first glance, but there's actually multiple things that can happen depending on specific things you can do, which makes it one of my favourite circles in the hospital. Starting with Thomas, he is in the hospital due to severe disfigurement on his face and a burning pain under his skin that won't go away. He got injured in the war. His only friend in the place is Thelma, who does not see his disfigurement at all, and treats him like a tasty snack as she believes she is a vampire. He likes this as she's the only one that still treats him like a human. You feel bad for him as he will never be treated the same again from most people because of his disfigurement. Talking to Thelma, we further get the confirmation that she thinks she's a vampire. She actually has Cotard's syndrome, a mental condition in which the person does not think they exist or that they are dead and putrefying, which would explain why she thinks she is a vampire. She's at the hospital because of this, but also because she's hiding from her enemies. This gives you a quest to find out information on these people. We find that the Guard of Prewin believe she is a vampire and are observing her. Stealing the reports that they are soon going to send to Geoffrey McCullum, we return to reassure Thelma that she is safe. The best part of these two is that you get a different quest if you decide to embrace Thomas before completing Thelma's original quest. Thelma will get captured by the Guard of Prewin, who believed that she killed Thomas. You can save her, and after speaking to her when she goes back to the hospital, you can get some really funny dialogue where she tries to mesmerize you.
Listen to my voice, Jonathan. You can't refuse to answer my questions. Speak now. Tell me about you and that fancy red-headed lady.
You mean Lady Ashbury? What about her?
Don't resist me. Answer now, Doctor. What's really going on between you two?
This is a really cool hidden interaction, as most people would likely finish her quest before they would consider killing Thomas, and even then, there's not really any reason you would want to kill him in the first place. If you embrace Thelma, it's a different story. Thomas will go missing and appear in the old morgue as a beast, and you'll have to fight him. My theory is that Thomas was extremely upset that Thelma had died, and therefore decided to leave the hospital, and maybe by accident or on purpose got turned into a beast.
In the back, you bastard! Didn't have the guts to fight me. Fuck you. I'll kill you. I'll kill you.
Clay Cox is actually the man that we first met in the embracing tutorial. Obviously, if you embrace him there, he won't show up again, but if you don't, after a while he'll turn up near the tents outside the hospital building. He's the leader of the Wet Boot Boys gang, and is a ruthless killer who has no mercy. He actually comes from the docks, where you can find his wife, Edwina Cox. There's a letter you can find where she expresses her annoyance at Clay for killing a stupid kid, and that there are men after him. Clay was so infuriated by her letter that he decided to get rid of the special knife that she gifted him, but he sees it as a lucky charm. He actually expresses that he would be grateful if you could get it back, and is a man of his word when you return it, giving Jonathan some money. Clay is probably one of the worst people in the game from a moral standpoint, but does show niceness to Jonathan, which makes me think that he might only be horrible to people against him.
You don't mind if I search your pockets, do you, sir? You won't need any of these anyway. I'm not stealing from you, mister. I'm only redistributing your belongings to people who need them more than you. You see, no one has claimed your body, sir, so it would be such a shame to bury you with your valuables. I will not forget you, sir, and I thank you for your generous donation.
Rakesh tends to the dead people in the hospital's makeshift morgue and does not have anyone in his circle. He runs a pawn shop with useful ingredients for making medicine. He was a doctor in the war, or so he says. He was actually appointed by accident and has no medical training. He does not fear death at all, which is why he is happy to attend to the dead. Spying on him, you find out another reason why he wants this job. He is stealing the belongings of the dead and selling them to make profit. This is clearly very unethical, but in this time frame, everyone is doing anything to stay alive. He's not really fleshed out more than this, which is understandable since there's so many characters.
I'd head back home if I were you, sir. Sir, step away! Link spotted! Watch out, boys!
Pippa Hawkins and Milton Hooks both work at Pembroke Hospital. Pippa is a nurse and Milton is the ambulance driver for the hospital. Pippa is quite aggressive from the get-go, frustrated with how exhausted she is from working and how awful the conditions have become. Milton is very much the same, complaining about the place and very open about his feelings. He also is a merchant who sells parts for guns. You can go to the garden out back of the hospital and find Milton's wallet, which has a picture of him and Pippa with writing on the back that says Milton and Pippa forever. Clearly these two are lovers, and you can give him back his wallet to learn that these two keep their relationship private, since their interracial relationship is frowned upon. Reid is more concerned that they might get fired as they're in a relationship while working in the hospital together. There's a document you can find in the makeshift morgue on a dead patient that states that Milton has been extorting patients at the hospital to guarantee them beds, making them pay money to reserve them. Pippa, of course, is his accomplice, and she knows which beds are free because of her being a nurse. Pippa confesses that it was her idea. She says that the patients would soon be dead anyway, so what's wrong with getting their money a little bit sooner, which is a horrible thing to say. It makes you dislike them as characters, but it also means that they are written well. There's a letter addressed to Pippa from her sister, where she mentions that Pippa wants to leave the hospital and has been thinking about joining the Guard of Prewin. If Milton is embraced, Pippa leaves the hospital like she wanted to, no longer having any reason to stay now that her lover is dead. She joins the Guard of Prewin as per her letter, and you can take her down. If you embrace Pippa, Milton stays at the hospital but closes down his shop.
Damn it! Why is this so difficult every time?
That is better. That is better. I will make it through one more night.
Dr. Corcoran Tippets and Nurse Gwyneth Brannigan are generally found wandering outside the hospital, tending to the sick in the tents. Both of them are of similar age and work closely with one another. Tippets almost acts as a mentor to Brannigan, but we soon see that Brannigan is the more level-headed of the two. Spying on Tippets, we discover that he is using drugs to keep himself active, as he is so exhausted from all the work in the hospital. When questioned, he refuses to stop working, even though it's causing him major health issues, and says that once the influenza outbreak calms down, he will retire. Further to this, we find the body of a deceased man in the old morgue and a death report next to him, starting a side quest. Upon inspection, we find that Tippett's failed this man due to a medical error by giving him an incorrect dosage of anaesthetic. Taking into account his tiredness and drug usage, Jonathan deduces that he's making errors because of this, and is worried that it will keep happening if Tippett's continues to work. You can make your decision, but either way, you will cover his mistake. You can go to Tippett's directly and say you will cover for him, or talk to Brannigan and tell her you will cover for him. Not too sure why this is a choice, as I think it would have worked better if you could choose to take action and get Tippett's fired, or cover for him instead. As for Brannigan, she is definitely overqualified as a nurse. Even Ackroyd's letter mentioned earlier proves that she knows what she's doing, despite her peers not liking it. Tippett's mentions that she would be a fantastic doctor, but due to the time period, she is unlikely to be allowed to become one. If you embrace Tippett's, Swansea does promote Brannigan to head surgeon. She is upset about this, as it took her whole life and the death of Tippett's for people to finally realise her worth, and yet she's still scrutinised because she's a woman, a sad reality of what times were like back then. Nothing really happens if you embrace Brannigan, but Tippett's is noticeably upset about her death. I really like Brannigan, especially out of these two, as you can tell she's a great person, wanting to help anyone. Tippett's, while going about things in the wrong way, is also a great person at heart, overworking himself to help the needy.
Sometimes you act like a real jerk, you know that?
Oh, come on, Ozzy, don't be like that.
What, like what? Like someone who felt betrayed by the man he loves? Did you ever even try to find me? Rescue me?
You know, it's not like that. I wanted to. I was so afraid to leave the hospital, not to be seen with you.
Look, we survived this shit together. That's all that matters. I know you did your best. Fuck the war, right? And fuck them all. Fuck the war.
Newton Blight and Oswald Thatcher are two characters that can be found near where you came to the hospital on the boat. At first, there's only Newton here. He explains that his friend Oswald went into the sewers after an argument they had. Newton can't follow because he has musophobia, an extreme fear of rats and mice. We find out that they both served and survived the war together. You need to find Oswald to continue. In Vampire, when you have to save someone that is trapped or being attacked, you have to do it on that day before you rest, otherwise the person will die or turn into a skull. We find Oswald in the sewers and free him. After resting, he joins Newton again. Both of them ended up being buried alive in the war, and heavily relied on each other to survive. This prompted Newton to take Oswald to get treatment at the hospital to help with his claustrophobia. Oswald doesn't want treatment though, and they both continue to sit by the water. I love these little details from the characters, explaining what their life is like after the war. Spying on their private conversation, we learn that they are actually lovers. While Oswald doesn't really care anymore and thinks they have nothing to lose, Newton says that he's terrified of people finding out and is a bit conflicted about his feelings. It makes sense, as it was illegal to be in a gay relationship back in 1918. I love how this game isn't afraid to explore these social aspects like this without feeling forced, as this would generally be an issue people had in London at the time. What is interesting about these two is that if you embrace Newton, Oswald remains at the hospital and doesn't seem too bothered about his lover dying. But if you kill Oswald, Newton will go missing and can be found turned into a beast in the sewers. This is quite strange to me, as you think Oswald would be a bit more hurt, since he is the one that doesn't care how the world sees their relationship.
A strange man was at the door with a pass for our medical facility. I refused him entry.
Darius, how could you know he didn't need our help?
His clothes were too finely tailored to be for Whitechapel.
Perhaps just a friend of that stray poet who is always about.
Richard Nethercott? No, not of the same cloth, this man. I suspect some machination from that journalist.
Clayton Darby. Is he still asking questions?
Yes. I saw him drifting around St. Mary's Church. I swear he is tracking me just downwind.
Nurse Crane is a really well done character, despite some shortcomings. Her story slowly builds over the first part of the game, and the more you learn, the more you end up feeling conflicted on whether she's doing the right thing or not. Personally, I think she is a decent person despite some of her decisions, and I'm sure people will disagree with me on it, but let me try and explain. Nurse Crane, or Dorothea Cranchiamescu, grew up in Romania, Transylvania, and fled to England in 1916 during the Battle for Transylvania after some of her loved ones were slaughtered. This was a significant but overlooked operation that took place against Austria-Hungary, and it's just another element that makes this game so good, as it explores more real-life history that occurred during the First World War. She's not the only one who fled, as you can meet Darius Petrescu and Christina Popa, who are also Romanian in Whitechapel. Due to her background as a nurse, she managed to get a position at Pembroke Hospital, but as you find more clues, it leads you to an illegally set up dispensary in Whitechapel. When you look for more information on Crane, the general summary is that she's a thief and a blackmailer. And yes, she is. I'm not excusing those actions, but it's important to look at the other side, with that she is using the stuff she stole to help the poor people that wouldn't be able to afford medical treatment without her help. We learn a hint from Beatrice Goswick that Crane literally gives drugs and medicine away for free for those who need it. I also want to look at it another way. Lady Ashbury is taking blood from patients at the hospital, and while they are on their deathbeds, that blood could be useful for other means. I'm no expert in the medical field, and I am aware of the complications of this, especially when a person is nearly dead, but in a pandemic such as the influenza, you wonder if having more of a blood supply could be helpful either way. So as for the blackmail, I actually understand how Crane feels. She works tirelessly to give the poor a better life, and a vampire comes in and takes what little hope these people might have left. This makes me think she's not really that bad of a person. Like many, she's doing what she can to survive and to help those around her. As for the choices you can make, there's one choice that's very controversial in the vampire community, and that is charming her. This option only unlocks if you get all 3 hints for Crane. The dialogue choice says, "You will forget about this," implying that Jonathan will mesmerize her into forgetting the blackmail, but that's it. That doesn't happen. It shatters her mind and she becomes a scowl, plunging the district health which will never be recovered fully. I do agree that it seems like it's supposed to be a good option, and it's actually the best option for Lady Ashbury, as this is what she wants you to do, stop the blackmail at all costs. Also, the fact that you have to work for this option and get all of Crane's hints, it kind of leads you to think that this is the right choice. I get people's frustrations on this completely, but the game does hint at what can happen to people if they're mesmerised. There's a document titled Article on Econs that Swansea gives to you, attached to a letter of welcome to the hospital. It talks about how the more a subject resists mesmerising, the more permanent the damage is to the brain, to the point where it can fracture the psyche of the target. This is probably what happened to Crane, as she was an extremely strong-willed individual. I personally don't mind about this choice being a bit misleading, as it's one of those games where you are likely to make a mistake at some point and have to live with the consequences.
You still want more from Christina?
When we spent the night together, my wallet went missing.
Are you calling me a thief? I don't have your stupid wallet.
I know you. You're a nice girl. Can't we solve this amicably?
No, I don't think so. And if you think you know me just because we shared the bed together, you're just a lousy and arrogant journalist.
Clayton Darby and Christina Popa can be found near the church in Whitechapel. They have an interesting dynamic. Christina is from Romania and struggled to find a decent job in London because of it, so she now works as a prostitute. Clayton is a journalist who aims to look into the current epidemic. These two don't seem like they would have any involvement in each other, but you can see them going off into a fenced area, and you can eavesdrop on their conversation. We find out that Clayton offered Christina his hotel room for the night so that she could rest and get off the street for once. They shared a night together, and he thinks that she stole his wallet. Speaking to Christina, she stole his wallet since she's trying to earn enough money to buy her brother a ticket to England. She's also upset because she has lost the one thing she still has from her brother, a scarf. A quest can be started to find this scarf. The quest is apparently very buggy and will most likely glitch out if you don't complete it specifically. I'm not going to go into any details, but you can find it online if you don't want to miss any hints for Clayton and Christina. I didn't even know this was an issue until researching for this video, as in my playthrough it worked fine, but I'm just leaving this as a warning. You can choose to give it to Christina or Clayton. If you want all the hints for them, you must give it to Clayton. This hint tells you that they are actually quite fond of each other, although it's very one-sided. Clayton started to have feelings for her, but she doesn't seem to care when questioned. She just wants money to get by and help her brother. If you embrace Clayton, you can receive his diary. It focuses heavily on Jonathan's suspicious wanderings of Whitechapel. He even links Jonathan to the bodies drained of blood in the back alleys due to his specialization in blood. Christina doesn't seem too bothered, but due to Clayton's murder scaring many, she no longer has her wealthy clients come to Whitechapel. She opens a shop to keep earning more money. A small detail is that if you then go and embrace Christina after Clayton is already dead, she actually has dialogue that suggests that they may have been able to work out a relationship together, proving that she at least somewhat liked him back. If Christina is embraced, Clayton is incredibly angry and vows to get her story out there, about how hard it is for many girls forced to work on the streets. I really respect that he is willing to expose these issues with society despite what it might do to his reputation. He's suspicious of Jonathan though, as he questions him on why he's here.
So you only hurt people because you care about me? Is that it?
Don't be such a brat. I'll do what I must to provide us with food and medicine, that's all.
Mum would never have let you bully an old friend like Mr. Lewis. Shame on you.
Harry, I'm your father and I love you. But don't you ever speak to me like that again.
What? You're gonna beat me too?
Jesus. Give me patience.
Joe and Harry Peterson are father and son in a circle with Barrett Lewis, a shopkeeper. Harry is a closed-off kid and stays inside his house and won't let you in unless you mesmerize him. He has a bit of resentment towards his father for moving them to a bad part of town after his mother, Joe's wife, passed away, and that Joe can't find an honest job to keep them afloat. This makes their relationship a bit complicated. He's scared to go outside, and he says he isn't afraid of death and decay, it's the living he's scared of. This is a really powerful quote in the world of Vampire. There's quite a few people you meet in Vampire that are truly horrible, and existing in a world like that, I certainly would be scared of the living too. Moving on to Joe, you find out he's struggling with finding a job because he has a criminal reputation. He has since been pestering Barrett through the means of extortion to make some money. Finding out more, Barrett and Joe actually used to be very good friends, but there's now somewhat of a rift between them. Talking to Barrett, he sends us on a side quest to retrieve a trinket box of his after he was mugged. Finding it, we discover a secret Barrett has been keeping for years. He actually had an affair with Joe's wife years ago. Take a look at Harry for a second time and realise that he looks more like Barrett than Joe. Yeah, Barrett is most likely the father, but he doesn't seem to care about Harry much. You can choose to give the box to Barrett like he asked, or take it to Joe, revealing the secret to him. Embracing Joe gives you one of the more unique outcomes in the game. Harry goes missing, and you can find him between Whitechapel and Pembroke Hospital. Entering this house, Harry will be holding a gun to his head. You get an investigation called Drop the Gun, and have to persuade him to, well, drop the gun. There's only one outcome that leaves him alive, and that is to tell Harry to drop the gun now. I mean, was there any other choice at this point? He will kill himself if you don't choose this option. He then heads back to Whitechapel and starts begging for money outside the church with no father to rely on. And you may be thinking, what about Barrett, his real father? He just doesn't care. He's happy his tormentor, Joe, is gone. If you embrace Harry, Joe ends up joining the Guard of Prewin. You can find a flyer in Joe and Harry's house about vampire hunting written by Clarence Crossley, who is an interesting character we'll delve more into later. Of course, with Harry being killed by a vampire, it makes sense Joe joins the forces to take the vampires down. If both Harry and Joe are dead, you can go and talk to Barrett, and he actually seems upset that they are both gone. Embracing Barrett makes Joe sad, as he still considers him a friend after all these years, despite all he's done to him.
Tobias Whittaker, confess why you burnt those people alive.
I have done what no one was ready to do. I will smite the flesh of the unclean to protect the righteous.
Father Tobias Whittaker is a priest found outside the church. He is one of the most vile characters in the game, which is lucky for us since he's easy prey, because he's not in a circle. His quest has you go looking for his disciple, who he sent to go preach in the cemetery. Reaching this place, you unlock another quest, in which you save a woman named Xiao Shun from Scowls, and talk to her before proceeding into the mausoleum to find some dead bodies. Following a blood trail, we find his disciple, although he's turned into a Scowl. Defeating him, we get his diary, which mentions him and Whittaker cleansing the soul of 2 frail, sick women by pouring petrol on them and burning them alive. Speaking to Whittaker once more, he has no remorse for these actions and thinks that the only way to contain the spread is to strike at the source, that being innocent sick people. Truly just a horrible person that doesn't deserve any more talking about.
Alright, time to make some more of that miracle stew. Where is the burner? Ouch! Oh, shit! Ow! Oh, shit, no more chlorine. Well, the next batch will be a little less miraculous, that's all.
Mason and Loretta Swanborough are 2 characters that have a lot of different things happen to them depending on your choices. This is one of the best in the game in my opinion. Loretta can be found in Whitechapel, selling medicine ingredients and the Swanborough cordial, which is said to be a miracle cure for the influenza. We immediately find out this is a placebo and actually does not do anything. Loretta is taking advantage of people by selling a fake medicine, but is in cohesion with her brother and trying to survive the pandemic. Mason Swanborough lives on the outskirts of town. His house is surrounded by enemies and he does not venture outside. He is clearly blind and relies on Loretta to help him out with things. You initially can't get into his house. I waited until after the docks to go back. Eavesdropping on him through the window, we find that he has been creating the Swanborough cordial for Loretta to sell. There is a letter in his house from Loretta, which obviously he cannot read, but she apologizes for causing him to go blind. It turns out that they got into an argument and she pushed him, causing him to hit his head and go blind. She tells you this after Mason dies. He has the longest side quest in the game, which involves collecting Braille documents for him to translate. There's 4 of these spread across London, and taking them back to Mason, we discover it's actually leading to a supposed cure for blindness. Mason obviously wants to get this cure as he's blind himself, and you end up going to a laboratory and defeating a chemist Scowl, who the cure for blindness backfired on, turning him. You can then go back to Mason and choose whether to give him the recipe for the cure or not. I chose to give it to him as it's his own choice whether he tries it knowing the risks, and it makes him happy. It turns out he tried it and it was successful, but seeing the state of the world again made him realize it wasn't worth it and he blinded himself again. If you embrace Loretta, Mason doesn't have anyone to support him and turns into a Scowl after going outside his house. He throws chemical bombs at you, which is a nice detail due to him being an alchemist. Things get really interesting if you embrace Mason. Loretta will venture out to Mason's house and attempt to make the Swanborough cordial now he can't anymore. She ends up blinding herself and now spends her time begging for money in the streets. Loretta isn't really a terrible person compared to some of the others, but it's almost a reap what you sow sort of situation. Her causing her brother's blindness and then out of desperation blinding herself by accident. It's crazy what you can find if you embrace some people.
Fuck you all! Fuck it all! Stop it now, Albert, stop it!
Benjamin and Albert Palmer are father and son who hang out on the back streets in Whitechapel. When you first enter Whitechapel, you actually see them fighting, and Benjamin, who's the father, takes a shot at Albert with a pistol. They clearly have a rough relationship. Starting with Benjamin, he is a war veteran who unfortunately suffers from psychological trauma and now must take a lot of medication. This is probably what led him to take a shot at Albert. Him and Albert are homeless after his wife died of the flu, and Benjamin spends his time wandering around Whitechapel, scrounging for food and alcohol, and always seems to be drunk. His son, on the other hand, Albert, is very rude to you. He's been trying to do some petty crimes to get the attention of the Wet Boot Boys, to hopefully join them to become a gang member. Eavesdropping on him, we discover that he is stealing his father's pills to sell them on. I can't help but feel bad for Benjamin, even though you can tell he's not a good father. Albert is just a nasty kid who doesn't care about his father at all, and I can't help but dislike him for his actions. If you embrace Benjamin, Albert becomes more confident and joins the Wet Boot Boys. He's led everyone to believe that he killed Benjamin himself, proving the point that he is a terrible person and will only get worse. He's also still as rude as ever. If you embrace Albert, however, it's a good outcome. Benjamin is obviously upset about his son's passing, and he thinks the Wet Boot Boys have something to do with it. He admits that he was a terrible father and that he failed him. Benjamin is no longer drunk all the time and swears that he will take down the Wet Boot Boys.
What happened? Who are you?
It's all right, sir. You're safe now.
Oh, a fellow Englishman. Thank you, sir. For a moment, I thought those bloody heathens had killed me.
What are you doing here? This place is not safe.
Yeah, it's a cesspool, but it's mine. I came to collect some overdue rent, but those who still live here have gone completely bonkers.
Cadogan Bates is an absolute scumbag. Yes, I'm out with a bang. Jonathan even talks to him like he despises him, which is understandable when you find out the implications of Cadogan's actions. Cadogan can be found trapped in a house full of scows. It turns out these scows are previous tenants of his, since he is a landlord. You can find documents that explain that Cadogan is exploiting them, and also has a revolting solution he proposes to the women who can't pay the rent. I'm sure you guys can put two and two together. When he's back at Whitechapel, he's way too happy of a person considering the situation in the area. Of course, this is because he has extorted many people for money and is now quite wealthy, and doesn't care about anyone but himself. He even asked Jonathan if he wants to partner with him on business ideas. Thank God, Jonathan shuts him down immediately.
Are you all right?
Please leave me be. She is dead now. As dead as my heart.
You mean Camellia?
Yes, Camellia. She's gone and no one cares. No one at all.
The next social circle involves Richard Nethercott, Darius Petrescu, and Camellia. I'll start with Camellia, as she has very little to talk about, quite literally. She is a mute and doesn't say anything to you at all. She's found tending to flowers in an alley next to the church. All we really know about her is that she helps Nurse Crane by distributing vouchers for medical care in plant pots around town. She's also the love interest of Richard, who is absolutely smitten for her. He writes poems about her and sees her as his muse. Unfortunately, he is struggling to set off a career in poetry, and you can find a letter of his work being rejected by a publisher near him behind the church. Then there's Darius. He owns a little print shop in Whitechapel. He is the right hand of Nurse Crane, and you have to discover his hints before you can access Crane's infirmary. He is quite close to her, as they knew each other back when they lived in Romania. Darius is a nice man once you get to talk to him. He helps the sick and poor get the medical treatment they deserve. He thinks that Camellia is an angel for handing out the medical vouchers, and that Richard is a nice guy but a terrible writer. If you decide to be a bastard and embrace Camellia, Richard will go missing, although he hasn't turned into a scowl. He's found at the cemetery mourning over her grave and continues to write poems to remember her. He's absolutely crushed at her passing. Darius mentions that Richard's writing has improved and might publish his works to honour Camellia's memory, but is also sad about her passing. If you embrace Richard, Camellia is found sitting where Richard used to hang around. If you speak to Darius, he says that Camellia no longer smiles now that Richard is not around, which is just really sad. Embracing Darius doesn't do much of anything. The only one that notices he's gone is Nurse Crane.
Are you all right, miss?
I don't know. Who were those people? They wanted to kill me. Why?
They've lost their minds in the epidemic. They won't come back for now.
Xiao Shun can be first found at the cemetery in the mausoleum, trapped by scowls. Speaking to her after they're defeated, she says that she must stay in the cemetery, but is very thankful for the help. She mentions that she must talk to her husband, and you can find her after resting on the other side of the cemetery, at her husband Matthew's grave. Xiao is in mourning, as Matthew's death came quickly and she never got to say a proper goodbye. She can only find peace of mind here, with the one she loves. She also feels guilty for not seeing Matthew's health deteriorate. I really like how Jonathan responds to her, relating to her as he has also lost someone he's close to, his sister. Xiao has a bit of change of heart, realizing that she's not alone in how she feels, and heads back to Whitechapel. She starts to hand out medicine for free to the needy. She's one of the characters that shows no sort of bad side at all, a truly nice person. It's a shame we didn't get more of her.
Welcome back, Dr. Reid. Would you like to take communion with me now?
Sean, are you eating raw flesh?
It is the sacred flesh of the mortal lamb. Our Lord's bountiful transmutation for the sustenance of his believers. Thank you, Lord. I am your most humble servant.
Sean Hampton, while rescued and brought to the hospital in the first part of the game, actually resides in the docks at his night asylum. The docks is split into two parts, separated by a small amount of enemy territory, which I really like. It makes the world feel bigger and more exciting. The docks also has some of the most horrible characters from a moral standpoint, which really makes you want to ruin a pacifist run to kill them. After first finding Sean, William Bishop is having a little feast on him. It turns out that Sean heard of William becoming violent and tried his best to save him. We find out some hints on Sean when revisiting the docks. He was abandoned when he was a baby in a Catholic orphanage and got molested by the priest that took care of him. Sean is pretty much the only pillar who hasn't really done anything terrible at the point of making a decision with him. He stopped Harriet from going on a killing spree by dragging her away from the hospital and put her in the sewers with the other scowls. He literally helps everyone in the docks, and also the scowls in the sewers, literally a saint for all those around him. He's truly a good guy with good intentions, put in a bad situation by being turned into a scowl. Sean doesn't want to be turned into a vampire and wants to stay a scowl, but it really is too risky. If you do choose to leave him, he turns into an evil scowl and many citizens go missing from the night asylum. Personally, I always turn him as it's the only logical way to save him, and it's obvious things are going to become worse if you don't. This is why it's important you find all his hints, as you can only turn him if you have them both.
Good evening, Mr. Digby. How are you?
Hello, Doctor. If you got questions about the Wet Boys, I'm not the one you need to be talking to.
And why is that?
I left the gang after my sweet Edwina was killed.
Booth Digby and Edwina Cox are two Wet Boot Boys gang members that hang around the east of the Turquoise Turtle pub. These two are horrible people, to put it lightly. Edwina is the wife of Clay from the Pembroke Hospital district and has taken leadership of the Wet Boot Boys in his absence. She's a ruthless, heartless murderer and thief who uses Booth for her dirty work. She sends people out to rob the dead and gives you a quest to find some of her men that were supposed to give her a share of the loot. We also find out that she and Booth are lovers, and she says she would literally put a bullet in his head if he ever cheated on her, which is ironic since she is literally cheating on her own husband. Finding the grave robbers dead, there's also a threatening note from Booth on their corpses. It says that they were concerned about going to the mass gravesite for safety reasons, and Booth threatened to tell Edwina if they didn't go there. They were clearly right to be concerned. You can return to Edwina and tell her of their deaths or keep it a secret. Booth is nearly as bad as Edwina and clearly does everything she asks due to him being in love with her. He is the one that killed Jack Gillingham under Edwina's command, which is a name that crops up all over the docks. However, you can find a note on a dock near the Turquoise Turtle that says he's worried about the future of the Wet Boot Boys and is considering trying to find another job. It becomes more apparent that he's being used if you embrace Edwina. He turns his life around and gets a job as a labourer, proving that he doesn't need to be a horrible person to get by. It's quite a nice redemption arc, as he only stayed in the gang because of his love for Edwina. On the other hand, killing Booth makes Edwina incredibly angry. She wants to punish everyone, further proving the point that she is the mastermind of the gang and completely heartless.
Don't you think Miss Fishburne is nice to us? But I always have the feeling she's hiding something. For now, you're still the only real friend I have, Jack.
Stella and Seymour Fishburne are mother and son, and they are in a circle with Rufus Kingsbury, an orphan. I'm going to get one of the worst people in the game out of the way, Seymour. He is immediately quite angry to be spoken to by you, but that's hardly the extent his character goes. He asks you to find the missing necklace he bought for his mother Stella. Finding it, you also discover that he killed a bunch of people. You can give the necklace to him or to his mother Stella directly. Confronting him, he has no empathy for the people he's murdered. He says that he doesn't take a pleasure in murdering, but gives him peace and stops his anger for a time, which is a crazy statement to make. I think he does love his mother and does want to do what's best for her, but he can't stop himself from doing the wrong thing. This isn't the last of the bad stuff he does though. The next part is to do with Rufus. Rufus has been labelled as Rufus the Curse, as many things seem to go wrong in his life. He is an orphan and homeless, but a nice boy who doesn't deserve all the things he's going through. You can eavesdrop on him to see that the only friend he has is a rat, and he talks to the rat about how nice Stella is to him, but thinks she's hiding something. Rufus sees Stella as a mother figure and is grateful to her, but is terrified of Seymour. Spying on Seymour and Stella in their house, we figure out why.
The stupid brat is gone. Good. I was tired of the maggot always hanging around our house anyway.
My God, Seymour. Have you hurt the boy?
Of course not. Why do you care so much about that cockroach? Do I need to talk to rats to get some attention too?
Don't be so childish. You know I love you, Seymour.
But you worry more about that stupid maggot.
Don't speak about him that way. Rufus has always been the kindest boy.
Yeah? Unlike your real son, right?
Seymour is jealous of his own mother giving an orphan more affection than him, and says some really nasty stuff about Rufus. You can tell how violent he is, throwing a glass on the floor in front of Stella. Now onto Stella. She's a nice woman who obviously cares for both her son and Rufus. Speaking to her, we find that she has known all along about Seymour's crimes, but is hiding it as he would likely face the death penalty, which she doesn't want for her son. It makes sense really, a mother's love for her child. She does say that if someone else has the courage to speak to the police, she would take her share. I feel genuinely bad for Stella, as she just wants to help Rufus and her son to stop being a criminal, but can't do either properly. If you embrace Seymour, which you should because he's horrible, Rufus now lives with Stella, but still spends a lot of time outside. They are happy to have each other, but she does feel sorrow for her son, as Rufus mentions she cries a lot at night. She also mentions that she wishes she didn't keep his crimes a secret. Rufus is super grateful for Stella and wants to help her to the best of his abilities. This is the best thing that can happen for both of them, despite Stella being sad. If you were a monster and embraced Stella, Seymour is understandably outraged by his mother dying. She was the only person he cared about. He keeps bullying Rufus, calling him a little maggot. Speaking to Rufus, he says that Seymour killed Rufus's only friend, the rat, right in front of him after he learned of the death of his mother. Rufus is distraught about her passing. He also seems to think that Seymour killed his own mother. If you embrace Rufus, Stella is super upset about him dying, and Seymour is outraged because people think he did it. It gets interesting if you kill both Rufus and Stella. You can find Seymour in his house. He knows you were responsible and starts making quick remarks at you. He finally seems different, like he's at peace with the rage gone. It's super weird how different he actually is.
I'm sorry to say, but you haven't yet paid me for the clock I brought you last time.
The clock? Oh yes, I found a broken clock in the living room and I couldn't remember where it came from.
You broke it? Ah, that is unfortunate. It was such a beautiful piece of work.
Really? Oh, I'm so clumsy these days. I'm so sorry. How much was it?
This will be enough. I can't make you pay the whole price if it's broken.
That's so kind of you. I'm going to make some tea now.
It will be enough. Until the next time you forget it, you old bat.
Enid Gillingham is a sad case, and it certainly doesn't help that Martin Nightingale is hanging around her. She's a senile older woman who lives in the marketplace near the night asylum. Martin can be found selling goods just outside her house. When you first speak to Enid, she thinks that you are Dr. Tippett and is convinced she knows you. She also says that her son Jack is taking care of her, which definitely isn't the case since we know he's dead. We discover that she mistakes Martin as her son, but it gets even worse. Eavesdropping on them, you discover Martin is taking advantage of Enid's poor memory to exploit her for money. He's also stealing her possessions to sell. What a nasty man. Confronting him, he blames it on his parents, who he let die of the flu. If you head into the house behind where you saved Archer Woodbead, you can find a body upstairs on the floor with the dying message of Jack to his mother and his pocket watch. You can sell it or give it to Martin for some money, or you can do the right thing and return it to Enid. What's really awful about this though is that after you rest, the pocket watch will end up in Martin's shop anyway, further proving his lies and deceit towards Enid. If you decide to take out Martin for his crimes, you'll get an interesting conversation with Enid. She now thinks you are Jack. In fact, all the dialogue changes as if you are acting as her son. You can even lie to her to keep up the act, which is kind of heartbreaking. There's even a whole monologue to hopefully provide closure for Jack's death. If you embrace Enid, you realise the extent Martin is willing to go to get what he wants. He will move into Enid's house, and you have to mesmerise him to let you in. He says that Enid bequeathed her home to him. He says that he did not want to see her die, yet her death was never reported, meaning that he probably discovered and hid her body. He clearly does not care, and is just happy he has a roof over his head. I want to point out Enid's last words when you embrace her. If Martin is alive, she says, "Jack, my son. He got killed. I remember all my life. Oh, the joy, the love. What a life. Thank you." This is the final closure she needed, remembering all the memories she lost. If Martin is dead when you embrace her, she has different thoughts about the end of her life. She says, "Martin pretended to be my Jack. You pretended to be kind. Deceivers, all of you. I can see that clearly now. She leaves the world not trusting anyone.
I found the location of the explosion, Mr. Delaney. I placed a flower for you where it happened, just as you asked.
Really? That's so kind. I never thought someone would... Well, thank you, Doctor.
It's nothing, really. And I'm sorry for your loss.
What? No, I didn't know them. No car was supposed to park there that day. Stupid bastard, why did he park there?
You're the man who hid that bomb.
I don't want to talk about it, leave me alone.
Dyson Delaney is an extremely drunk man that you can find in and around the Turquoise Turtle pub. I find it strange that he's not in a circle at all, despite being in close proximity to Tom and Sabrina. When you speak to him, you learn that he was an anarchist when he was younger. He mentions a bombing that took place at the East End docks, but can't remember the location to pay homage to the dead that it killed. He seems genuinely upset about this. He asks that if you find it, to leave some flowers at the place. Finding it and leaving flowers, you can head back to Dyson and say that you found the place. Dyson reveals that he didn't know the people and gets defensive about a car that wasn't supposed to be parked there. Turns out he was responsible for the bombing and planned an attack with his anarchist group. It was to destroy the Dawson and Dawson's ammunition factory and harm no one, but instead it killed an innocent couple. While not confirmed, it is believed that this couple were Rufus's parents, although I'm not quite sure as Rufus says that they died in a car crash, not a bombing. Since the bombing, Dyson has drowned himself in drink every day as a way to cope for what he did. I do feel somewhat sorry for him. You can tell he regrets his actions, and his drinking habits are almost a way of repenting his sins.
You all right, sir? What are you doing in a place like this?
I'm not sure that's any of your business.
I hope you realize that staying here will put your life at great risk.
Pah! I'm not afraid of these guards of Priwen, or whatever these thugs call themselves. I can still kick some respect into those youngsters.
I wasn't specifically referring to them, but are you really after these men? Why?
They took my boy! I've had no news since he joined that crazy gang.
There's not much to talk about with Archer Woodbead. You have to save him initially before he's back in the docks. He mentioned that his son ended up joining the Guard of Priwen, and he hasn't currently had any contact with him since. He seems to be missing. Archer also explains that he used to lead the Wet Boot Boys gang when they were more respectable. He explains that they used to protect the people of the docks, but it's changed. He has a bleak view of the world, saying that as he got older, it's gotten worse. He's generally a good guy, and even mentions he likes Rufus and feels sorry for him.
Don't forget to count each bullet you fire.
You told me that already.
Nice shot. You learn quickly. Pointing an empty gun could be a fatal mistake.
It's easier when I picture the bastard's face.
Sabrina Cavendish and Tom Watts both work at the Turquoise Turtle pub in the docks. Tom is the owner and Sabrina is the working barmaid there. You can interact with them both right at the start of the game when looking for William Bishop. There is a hint you can learn about Tom being good friends with William, and if you don't get it at this point right at the start of the game, it will be lost forever when you revisit the docks later. Starting with Tom, he's a nice guy who provides a safe place for people to hang out at night. He enforces a no weapons rule in the pub to keep everyone safer, and keeps alcohol prices cheap, which probably isn't good for Dyson. He says he's in need of more alcohol, and it's stored in a quarantine zone. Heading there and taking on some enemies, we grab some alcohol and find a newspaper. It says that Tom had been arrested and jailed previously for attempted murder, which is quite a shocking revelation. Heading back to tell him, he tells us that he paid his time and has nothing to hide. This is why people trust him. He was actually a member of the Wet Boot Boys and was ordered to kill someone, but he couldn't do it. He mentions it was a landlord who rented overpriced flats, which I think could either be a reference to Cadogan Bates or Kimura Tadao, who are both characters in the game. You can also choose whether to give him the bottles of alcohol you collected, or lie and say his stash was already looted. Now onto Sabrina. She is a nice barmaid who's quite close to Tom. She seems very well spoken and stoic, until you find a letter outside the pub that has come from her diary. I'm going to read this one because it sends a very powerful message. For looking away when they mock my colour, I hate myself. For crying like a girl when they insult me, I hate myself. For swearing like a boy when they're gone, I hate myself. For hating my parents, I hate myself. For smiling when customers call me Sad Brina, I hate myself. For never finding the courage to tell Tom how I truly feel, I hate myself. It's an extremely depressing diary page that shows just how broken she feels, despite her looking tough on the outside. One of the main takeaways here is that she has romantic feelings for Tom. In fact, she doesn't really feel safe around this place, and Tom and the pub are the two things that help her with that. You can speak to them both about it, and they both feel the same way for each other. However, Tom seems hesitant to commit to anything because Sabrina has some pent-up anger, likely towards the people that mock her. You can eavesdrop on Tom and Sabrina going outside the back of the pub and witness Tom teaching Sabrina how to shoot a gun. Sabrina says that she was once assaulted by a client and wants to defend herself if it happens again. If you embrace Tom, he leaves the pub to Sabrina, who is torn on whether to leave the docks or staying to grant Tom's wishes. Embracing Sabrina causes Tom to become angry and will now reveal hints for characters in the hopes that you can help him catch Sabrina's killer. Embracing them both makes the pub shut down.
I'm a tracker of these creatures. A vampire hunter.
You best be off to your hunting then. For if the sewer dog is back, and hunting all these poor folk, he needs a catching.
A sewer dog? What's it look like?
It's an old story. A monster with daggers for teeth and icy claws. He comes of a sudden, nighttime, claiming innocence, then vanishes.
Teeth, claws, murders by night? Your sewer dog is my business. He's the kind of prey I hunt, milady.
Ichabod Throgmorton is first seen outside Turquoise Turtle in your hunt to find Sean after he escaped the hospital. He is a vampire hunter, investigating murders in the area. He mentions Jack Gillingham's murder, saying that he thinks it was a vampire, which we know is not true. He tasks you with putting flyers around town, warning people about vampires. You can choose to put them up or burn the pile and go back to Ichabod to complete his quest. You can find a Garda Priwen note that states that he is a fraud of a vampire hunter and that he has no clue what he's talking about at all. Speaking to Ichabod, he tries to big himself up, saying he's already had a run-in with a vampire, but it turns out he saw the vampire as a suffering soul and ended up sparing her. He felt sorry for her and just couldn't do it, but seems to regret it a bit now as there's been more murders in the area.
Are you all right, sir? What are you doing here?
I could ask you the same question. Don't you know this is a quarantine zone?
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reid. I'm investigating the epidemic. You had better get to a safe place while you still can.
Oh, really? Well, go investigate somewhere else and leave me be.
I beg your pardon?
I said go. Leave me alone, sir.
Rodney Grader can be found near the Skal hideout in the sewers and refuses to leave at first. He killed a gang member of the Wet Boot Boys for mocking him and has been hiding ever since. Eventually, you can convince him to head back above ground. Talking to him again, it turns out he was very close with Jack Gillingham. When Rodney killed that gang member, the Wet Boot Boys thought Jack had done it and went to confront him. When Jack didn't refute the argument, they killed him. Like we discovered earlier, Booth and Edwina were behind his death. Rodney feels very responsible for his death and now fears his own life too. He feels lost and unsure of what to do, but is reassured when Jonathan says he should live his life in a way that would make Jack proud.
For Christ's sake, get a grip! Look at yourself!
It's quite hard to do without a mirror. Can I borrow yours? Oh wait, we don't have a house.
Yes, we're poor, but there is work to do. Honest money waiting to be earned.
I had honest work before I was fired by those fascist pigs, remember? So let me drink in peace.
You were fired for the bottle, not for your political opinions. When will you realise that?
Maybe I do drink too much. And maybe it did cost me my job. But the struggle is real, and don't you dare undermine it.
Giselle and Lottie Paxton are sisters who help Sean run the night asylum. At first, they are a bit of a strange duo. Lottie is very nice to you and answers all your questions, warning you that a man in nice clothes will attract a lot of attention. Giselle, on the other hand, seems like she hates your guts right out of the gate. She judges you for your mannerisms and outfit, and straight up says she doesn't like you at all. Both her and Lottie are homeless, but Sean provides a bed and shelter for them in exchange for them helping out at the night asylum. She took part in trade union activism, which makes sense, but she says she was fired from her job because of her beliefs. She mentions that she lost some money from the trade union that she was asked to hide, and they assumed she stole it. Instead, she got really drunk and saw some suspicious men who she thought stole the money from her. You can go and find this money on a pier and bring it back to Giselle. She actually says she misjudged you and thanks you for helping her. She then talks about Jack Gillingham like most people, and that he was one of the reasons that she didn't drink so much. Eavesdropping on her and Lottie, we found out that she is a massive alcoholic, and that might be why she was fired from her job rather than her beliefs. If you embrace Lottie, Giselle decides to join the Garda Prewin, and she can be fought in the streets right outside the night shelter's vicinity. If you embrace Giselle, Lottie will disappear and can be found near the pier as a scowl.
Finally you're here, Dr. Reid. What took you so long?
I had to pass several of your barricades and outposts to access your mansion, sir.
Death, pestilence surround us, and time is against me.
I see you've gathered some of the most expensive, albeit experimental, blood transfusion equipment available. All this could be so useful in a hospital.
Yes, yes. Since Lord Redgrave sent me a doctor to perform my conversion, I thought you might find some of these devices useful.
Most thoughtful. But tonight I'm not here as a physician.
But I feel reassured that a specialist such as yourself would help me to escape the Reaper.
The West End has a lot of people who don't have circles, but they are generally an interesting bunch. It's also split into two like the Docks, with the main street of West End and Temple Church. We're starting with Aloysius Dawson, the pillar of this area of London. You don't really interact with this guy much before you have to make the important decision on what to do with him. He is the wealthiest man in London and has some major plans for dealing with the influenza, building a wall around the West End to keep the influenza out of the rich area and leaving everyone else to die. So yeah, Aloysius is a terrible person who unfortunately is in power because of his riches. An interesting hint that you find out about Aloysius is that he was a member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a real-life secret society dedicated to studying occult traditions. This likely led to his interest in becoming immortal, and thus prepared for years to be turned into one, waiting for the right person to do it. With his health rapidly declining, he only has 1 day left when you are asked to turn him by Lord Redgrave. He is terrified of death and is desperate for you to do what he wants. The best option always seems to be to charm him, which you need all his hints to do so. He no longer fears death this way. He will pass away and you'll be outcast from the Ascalon Club, but you end up persuading him to help the people of London before he departs. He cures everyone from their diseases, and it's generally a good outcome for all. On the other hand, turning him into a vampire makes everyone sick. You're still welcome at the Ascalon Club, but it's at the price of making a terrible man immortal.
Your father and I have spoken about your fiancé, Mary. We believe he'll be an honorable husband for you. We'll set a date for the marriage then. That way, I'm sure one of my children will give me grandchildren. I understand your thirst for knowledge, Jonathan, and your father and I are proud of it. But you are not that young anymore, my son. When will I meet your soulmate? You could ascribe my romantic tendencies to my French origins if you want, Aubrey. But I'll never cease to believe in a match made in heaven, my beloved.
Emmeline Reid and Avery Cork live in the Reid family house. Avery is always there, but if Emmeline died in the Mary encounter, you won't be able to see her at all. In this section, I'll be talking about her as if she survived and went home. She's a bit underutilised considering she's your own mother. When you speak to her, the conversation is really quite odd. I'm unsure of whether she had mental problems before, but her encounter with Vampire Mary shattered her mind due to the mesmerising. She immediately knows you're a vampire, which means she might have some recollection of the cemetery showdown with Mary. She thinks that because you are dead but came back to see her, Mary will do so too. You can eavesdrop on her and see her sitting at a table, talking as if Jonathan, Mary and her husband Aubrey are still alive in the room with her. It's really sad that there is nothing you can do, and you just have to leave her and her shattered mind alone. As for Avery, he is the butler for the Reid family. He takes care of Emmeline on his own and mentions he must keep a close eye on her since she often goes out at night alone. He says that Jonathan should be home more often to take care of his mother and that he needs to focus on family as well as work. Avery won't ever leave the Reid family as he was paid a hefty sum of money to live out his days as their butler. Heading into your room, you can find a key to your father, Aubrey Reid's office. Once in there, you find a letter addressed to Jonathan, leading you on a treasure hunt across London. Jonathan's father left the household at some point, but never explained why he did so. In the letter, Aubrey mentions that if Jonathan wants to find out why, he must collect all his letters. The first letter leads you to Temple Garden Park, where the green grass and tall trees on sunny Sundays are. Finding the second letter, you need to go to the hospital where you applied for your first internship, which happens to be Pembroke Hospital. This letter explains a lot. Jonathan was actually rejected at Pembroke, and Aubrey had finally seen a darkness in Jonathan after he was so upset at the rejection. Then we find out the reason Aubrey left. He was sick to the point where death was inevitable, and refused to be seen like this by those he loved. He left one last gift for Jonathan, where he stood when Jonathan left for France. Heading there and opening a safe, he leaves us his golden watch. You can actually give it to Avery if you would like as a thank you for all the years he's been a part of the family. I love this quest as it really puts the Reid family into perspective. I almost feel like Aubrey is more fleshed out than Emmeline just from the letters alone. If you embrace your own mother, I can't believe that's a sentence I can say, her dying words question what happened to the family. Speaking to Avery, he doesn't suspect it's you at all, but thinks that if you had been around more, she wouldn't have been killed. He calls you the master of the house and gives his condolences to you. If you embrace Avery, Emmeline will turn into a scowl with no one to take care of her. She is still in the Reid family house, but the place has notably turned to ruin. Unfortunately, I killed her too quickly as I was high level, but she has a really interesting but sad mechanic where she makes shadows of Mary and Jonathan.
You give me no other choice, Clarence. Yes, my love, it's a new tea I bought. Not too bitter for your taste, I hope. Drink your tea, my love. Drink it to the last drop. And shut your damn trap for good.
Clarence and Venus Crossley are husband and wife who live in a lovely house in the West End. They are some of my favourite characters in the game. Jonathan actually knows them, as Clarence is his childhood friend. He's also an old friend of Venus, who I imagine he met through Clarence at some point. Clarence can be found roaming the streets, handing out flyers to warn about vampire attacks. He says that the war opened his eyes to how dangerous they are, as he saw an officer drink the blood of a soldier. In fact, it seems to have taken over his entire life. You can find many flyers about vampires in the world that Clarence wrote. For example, there's one in Mason Swanborough's house and in Joe and Harry Peterson's house. His word is definitely getting out there, meaning his campaigning is somewhat successful. When talking to him about Venus, his wife, he says that he came back from war as a different man. You quickly realise that Clarence and Venus's relationship isn't as strong anymore, and there's conflict between them. Going into their house, you can speak to Venus herself. She seems like a really nice person, immediately giving her condolences to Jonathan about his sister's passing, unlike Clarence, who doesn't mention it. Venus even calls Clarence out for it, which is a bit petty. The conversation quickly devolves into Venus's opinion of Clarence after the war. She doesn't believe in vampires at all, and thinks Clarence made the whole thing up. You can find her journal upstairs, which delves deeper into the troubles these two have. It starts with her being unbelievably happy Clarence is safe after the war, excited for him to return. But he returned as a different man, constantly out on the streets searching for evidence of vampires. Eventually, he spent all of his pension and some of their savings to print leaflets warning about vampires. It's become the talk of the West End, and people openly mock them for it. Even the vendors in the West End demand money up front and no longer let Venus have credit in their stores, further causing her embarrassment. Finally, at the bottom of the journal, she states that she sometimes wishes he did not come back from war. Speaking to her about this, she is so angry that their savings are dwindling. She seems to hate what her life has become, a laughingstock for many. In fact, she is willing to do something awful to get her life back. Eavesdropping on her, you will discover that she is poisoning Clarence by adding it into his tea. Questioning her, she wants to kill him to take whatever's left of his money before it's too late. It's also an untraceable poison, so she won't be found out. It's a very extreme measure to take. You can go and tell Clarence what she is doing, but he does not seem to care. He blames himself for her feeling like that, and he still loves her. I feel extremely bad for him. While he did sort of put himself in this situation and spent way too much money for this cause, he still doesn't deserve to be poisoned. Clarence gives you a quest to find documents on vampires, which takes quite a while to do. Once you return to him, you don't get any reward. You can speak to Venus, who says that she burnt them immediately when Clarence brought them home, which is not surprising. If you embrace Clarence, Venus does different things depending on whether you completed Clarence's quest of hunting down those documents. If you haven't completed the quest, she's not too fussed about his death, since she was trying to kill him anyway. But if you do complete the quest, clearly the information on vampires and Clarence's death was enough to convince her that vampires are real. She actually joins the Guard of Priwen to fight against the vampires. It's different seeing her in a uniform as opposed to her usual posh attire. It's a shame you can't speak to her about it. I wonder if she regrets her actions now. If you embrace Venus, Clarence can be found in their house. He immediately knows you did it and doesn't want to let you in the house out of fear. You can mesmerize him to get in though. Every question you ask Clarence, he turns it on you. He outright asks you if you are a vampire, which you can choose to admit to if you like. He still doesn't blame Venus for trying to kill him and blames himself for his actions, and you for killing her. Clearly, there is no sign of friendship after this.
Be careful, Carol. You're wasting good food here.
Yes, Mother.
I said be careful, child. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Mummy has been so clumsy again.
No, that's okay. It won't bleed for long.
You're so pale. Are you feeling sick? Do you need to see a doctor?
No, I'm fine. I already saw the doctor last week.
Don't be silly. You must see a doctor. Just don't tell him how clumsy your mummy is, all right? I love you so much, my baby.
I love you too, Mother.
Carolyn and Carol Price are mother and daughter who run a shop in Temple Church. Carolyn is an ex-patient of Jonathan's, as he was her doctor before the war. She flirts with you often in the conversation, calling you handsome and saying you should stick around. Talking to her about Carol, her daughter, she seems very protective of her. She's nearly an adult now, and while she's still clumsy and doesn't know the dangers of the world, her health is not as bad as it once was. Speaking to Carol, you can tell that she gets anxious a lot just from the stuttering in her voice. She says that she sometimes injures herself because of her clumsiness, and that she's nervous talking to people who come in the shop. She says Richard Nethercott used to be her friend, that doesn't come round anymore, but a nice crossover to Whitechapel nonetheless. Carol is incredibly doubtful of herself, saying that she will never get a husband because of her problems. She mentions she is thankful for her mother taking care of her, but eavesdropping on them in the basement of their shop, you discover more to the story. Carolyn is actually physically and emotionally abusing Carol, making her think she is useless. She injures her and tries to blame it on clumsiness, but you can clearly tell it's on purpose. In fact, this is why Carol has visited a doctor so many times in her life. She also forces Carol to never tell anyone that she caused the injury. Speaking to Carolyn, you straight up accuse her. She denies it, of course, blaming Carol for her clumsiness and saying that it might be a family trait. She gets incredibly angry at you. Speaking to Carol, she continues to blame herself for everything. Even if her mother does hurt her, she says it's her fault because she got in the way. It's crazy the amount of abuse this girl is suffering, but you can't convince her. She will continue to say her mother loves her very much. Embracing Carolyn, you think that Carol would finally realise how horrible her mother is and be fine on her own. You think you are freeing Carol from her tormentor, but speaking to Carol again, she sees it differently. While she plans to grow up by herself and deal with it, she really doesn't know how to get on with life without her mother. Even when you ask about the abuse she received, she's still adamant that she can't imagine life without her. If you embrace Carol, Carolyn is distraught. She wants you to stay around to take care of her, and even says that she used to be joyful sometimes when Carol bled, just because she could see you again. She is truly sick. Not that this excuses her behaviour, but it seems like she went through her own neglect and abuse in her younger life to become the person she is now. She is scared of being alone, especially without Carol, so maybe she had some of her own abandonment issues. You can actually go downstairs into the basement of the shop now, and it's really quite creepy what you find. Carol's body is down here, resting peacefully on the bed. Sometimes Carolyn sits by her and talks to her. The whole thing is just really weird.
I am Tadao Kimura. I was imprisoned by this lunatic for several days. I thought I was going to die here.
You're not going to die now, Mr. Kimura. If you hurry, you should be able to get home safely.
It seems that I owe you my life. You have all my gratitude, Dr. Reid, since it is the most precious thing I possess.
Kimura Tadao is a wealthy landlord who does not first appear in the West End. He's actually been captured by a vampire and can be found trapped in a restaurant with his tormentor roaming outside. Taking the vampire down and speaking to Kimura, he will travel back to the West End, where you can find him nearby to where Clarence roams about. He explains that the vampire captured him due to finding out about his passion for astronomy. In fact, they had met a few times previously at the Royal Greenwich Observatory. The vampire did not kill him straight away, and he was waiting for the stars to be aligned. He also mentioned the Red Queen configuration to Kimura, and that the voices in his head were his master, ordering him to do awful things. Clearly, this vampire was being controlled by a much more powerful one. Kimura definitely had a lucky escape. While Kimura is a landlord, when you ask about his occupation, he says that he realizes he was not a nice landlord at all. He wants to turn his life around and go back to his hometown of Weymouth, finally going back to his family instead of forgetting them and focusing only on making money. He says that he was a bad husband and actually takes accountability for his previous actions, which is refreshing. When asking Kimura if he can really change, he explains that Jonathan cared enough for his well-being to save him, put his life on the line for him, and that he will follow his example. He talks about the Guard of Priwen chasing down these vampires and wonders if he should join them. If you let the West End district fall, he can actually be found and fought as a member of them.
Tell me, Charlotte, how do you plan to achieve eternal life, since you've obviously given it a lot of thought?
I won't give up. You have no idea how determined I am, sir. I may contract a deadly disease. I may throw myself under a carriage, just to be saved by her sweet kiss.
That's a disturbing answer, young lady. And the worst part of it is, I know you speak the truth.
There are less dangerous ways, Doctor. Instead of throwing myself under a horse like Emily Davison, I could just throw myself into your arms.
Charlotte Ashbury is the adopted daughter of Elizabeth, and she can be found in the West End. She is a motivated and strong-willed individual who teases you a lot for being a vampire. She is a suffragette, fighting for women's right to vote. At this time, women had to be 30 and property owners to vote, as opposed to all men at age 21. Emily is her best friend, also a suffragette who helped Charlotte campaign. To be honest, there seems to be more chemistry with Charlotte than Elizabeth herself. This might be due to the fact that Charlotte really wants to become a vampire. Her reasons aren't all that bad. She explains she wants to make the world a better place, especially for women, and immortality would help her with that. It would still be dangerous turning her, but if she would only do positive things for the world, I wouldn't really say it's an issue. However, Lady Ashbury refuses to turn her, but Charlotte has clearly made up her mind about turning into a vampire. You can ask her what her plan is to do it, and she says that she may contract a deadly disease or throw herself under a carriage, all to be saved by her own mother, with the only choice to be to turn her. As Jonathan puts it, it's really disturbing, and it's the only thing that puts me off Charlotte. When she says she could just throw herself into your arms, you have the option to tell her to be careful what she wishes for. Now on to Emily, who is Charlotte's suffragette friend. She's actually gone missing, and Charlotte reveals that she gained a recent interest in vampires. Unfortunately, it's kind of Charlotte's fault, as she told her of their existence. To find out more on her disappearance, you have to actually go through Venus's house and teleport onto the balcony at the other side. Here you can let yourself into Emily's apartment easily, which isn't a good sign. You can find a letter from Emily addressed to Jax, talking about his teeth on her lips, as well as a lot of other stuff. The main thing is that she expects him to turn her into a vampire, and seems to have agreed to this proposition, or at least spoken about it to her. Following a blood trail, you can find Jacques Michel Guillemin Florimond Le Marquis de Bois Colombes. I completely butchered that, but he's French. Who would have guessed from that name? He is standing over a body, which is probably Emily's. Jax is actually very friendly with Jonathan and thinks that all Econs are family. He tells you that he did try to turn Emily, but her body rejected the blood and she ended up dying instead. If you read the diary in the apartment, you have the option to say "I believe you" and let him go. If not, you'll have to fight him and take him down. Heading back to Charlotte, you tell her of Emily's fate. Learning that Emily's body rejected the blood, she seems to have a slight change of heart, realizing the risks of turning into a vampire. She feels regretful that she told Emily of their existence, and probably learnt a lesson here. The mere fact that she is willing to admit fault shows she's a good person.
But what about the epidemic? The bombs and raids? And all the random violence?
Please, sir, this is London, England. We will prevail. And if a bomb must fall on my shop, then I'll be there to hear it falling.
Calhoun Russell is a shopkeeper in the West End, with a curiously dapper style about him. With his top hat, monocle and long beard, he's clearly quite a wealthy man. He's also quite ignorant, not believing in the severity of the pandemic. Food seems to be his biggest interest, and he actually used to be a food critic. He asks you to be on the lookout for an intriguing restaurant for him to enjoy. Heading to Temple Covered Market nearby, we find a notice board advertising a blindfolded restaurant experience. You can go back and tell him, and after resting, he will have gone to experience it himself. He really enjoyed it despite it being very expensive. You then have an option to call him out on his expenses. Calhoun says that while he is wealthy, he donates to charity and plans to give all his money to the suffering East End if he dies, which is nice. You can also find some interesting information about Calhoun in Doris Fletcher's theatre. After making a decision with Swansea, there's a love letter you can find in the same room from 1912. It turns out Calhoun was the lover of Doris for a time.
You make me sick. You juicy, warm treat. Damn it! Oh my! What have we got here? A dead rat. Oh, so gross. So tempting. Eternal life. Through the blood of the lesser beasts, he said. Oh, dear God, help me. Save me, for I can't stand what I've become.
Karina Billow can be found behind the Ascalon Club and is unfortunately a very sad case. She immediately acts very strange towards you, but you soon realise that she has been turned into a vampire, an extremely powerful one in fact, and it has completely taken over her mind. She is constantly trying to fight the voice inside her head, who forces her to eat the tasty, disgusting rats, as she puts it. Eavesdropping on Karina, you find her eating said tasty, disgusting dead rats in the back alley. Speaking to her, she begs you to help her over and over, even asking you to kill her to end her suffering. She knows you're a vampire too, and you have the capability to help her. She explains more about the vampire, that he was a handsome guy that offered her immortality, but she was tricked and manipulated. If you ask her to reveal the name of the vampire, he takes over her mind and speaks to you directly. He tells you to leave his toy alone, and that he finds it amusing to see her defile herself, which is sickening.
Miss Teasdale, are you all right?
How do you know my name? Who are you?
My name is Dr. Reid. I managed to track you down thanks to your father.
So my father really was looking after me. This man, this vampire told me my father was dead. Is it true?
I'm afraid so, miss. I'm so sorry for your loss. But you are free to go, as your abductor is no more.
I suppose my jailer also killed my father, didn't he?
Thankfully, he did not search your father's corpse, where I found his notes describing where he might find you. You should read them.
I must find my father's body. He deserves a proper burial.
Louise Teasdale is one of my favourite characters, despite there not being much to talk to her about. She doesn't care what people think of her and says what's on her mind, which leads to some funny conversations with her. Like some others, you have to save her. In the sewers, you can find hints on her whereabouts. First is a dead body and a letter on it that confirms it was her father. He was trying to look for her after she went missing a few weeks ago. She was witnessed leaving her job at a bar with an elegant man. I think we all know where this is going. After this, you eventually find a woman shouting and a vampire guarding her cell. You can take him down and read his diary, which says he was looking for a woman to be his immortal wife. Louise was the perfect fit for him, but Louise refused, and it seemed like he locked her up until she would agree to his terms, or until he had enough and killed her. Freeing Louise, she will appear in the West End near the Ascalon Club. She's determined to make a change in her life, and mentions joining Ichabod Throgmorton as his apprentice. We know what he's like, so good luck to her. Louise and her father had a bad argument before she ended up going missing, but her father still went to try and save her. She talks about him fondly. In fact, most of her dialogue talks about her dad. If you question her about the vampire that captures her, you get the funniest dialogue in the game.
Really? Did you consider accepting his proposal?
Well, immortality. Not a common wedding gift, is it? I think he just wanted to have his way with me. Can vampires even fuck, Doctor?
What? Well, I really can't answer that. Since they are creatures of blood, physically speaking, I suppose an erection is possible, but
Don't be embarrassed, Dr. Reid. I was just asking.
Jonathan gets really flustered here. It's truly amazing.
What are you investigating, exactly?
Well, my 2 missing persons cases have been solved. By you, it seems. Are you just that lucky? Or do you know something I don't?
I was lucky enough to find them both while conducting my investigation in the this part of town.
Why do I still have the feeling that you're hiding something? What about the abductor? Was it the same person?
I don't think so. You had better interview Miss Teasdale and Mr. Kimura on that matter. All I did was to lead them safely home.
Charles Albright is an investigator with Scotland Yard who's found in Temple Church. He is investigating the deaths and missing people in the area. He doesn't really want to answer your questions simply because he is the one that's supposed to ask you the questions. He is a detective after all. He even asks if you have anything to report, and you can choose to call out Geoffrey McCullum or Fergal, although it doesn't do anything. You can also talk about missing people, and if you saved Louise and Kimura already, Charles is a bit suspicious on how you managed to save them so quickly. There's not a lot of information you can get out of Charles, but upstairs in Aloysius Dawson's mansion is a newspaper article which is interesting. It's written by Clayton Darby from Whitechapel and speaks of Charles being demoted in rank. It turns out a man had been sentenced and hung to death after it was suspected that he killed his sister, but there was no evidence. Charles must have been the one investigating this case, as his demotion came after this man was wrongfully accused. Talking to Charles, he says he deserved his demotion after his terrible mistake. You can talk to him about the death penalty after that, which he thinks should be abolished.
Jonathan Reid. At last we meet. The cards warned me you would visit tonight.
I beg your pardon, sir. Do I know you?
Of course you do. Our mutual friend, Dr. Swansea, can't speak highly enough of you. My name is Usher. Usher Talltree.
You are the leader of the Brotherhood, are you not?
Primate of the Brotherhood of St. Paul's Stole, to be precise. I'm really glad we met tonight. I love it when the cards tell me a truth.
The cards told you to expect me.
Yes, they can tell me everything. They told me that you have not taken another life since your poor sister died.
Usher Talltree is the primate of the Brotherhood of St. Paul's Stole, the same society Swansea mentions. He's very much into tarot card readings, and if you have yet to embrace anyone in Vampire when you first talk to him, he says that the cards told him you have not taken another life since Mary died. He seems to know everything, although sometimes it's just other people relaying information to him. You can pay him money to reveal hints you have missed on citizens, but you can't get any that you've already failed. You can also ask to get a reading of your future. I'm assuming it's different depending on how many people you've embraced. He also gives you some old blood, but that might only be the case if you have yet to kill anyone. The Guard of Prewin think Usher is a vampire, and they are constantly watching him. They even broke into his house and stole his notebook. He asks you to return it to him, but to not read it if you find it. You can find this book in a safe located in the basement of Doris Fletcher's theatre. You have to get the key for it, which is located on a Guard of Prewin member upstairs. You can choose whether to read the book or not and return it to Usher. You will know if you've taken a peek, so choose wisely. I recommend not looking at it. If you give it back to him without looking, you will be given a collectible called Origins of the Brotherhood. In the top right corner on this collectible, you see some weird symbols. This actually correlates to a puzzle solution to get one of the best weapons in the game. Just above Usher, there are some weird pressure plates on the floor, which must be pressed in the right order. You need 6 other collectibles to solve it: the myth of the horned vampire, rare species of vampire, origin of the scowls, blood as addiction, laughing at the guard, and the crime of lost knowledge. All of these notes have symbols on them which correlate to which order to press the buttons. It seems to be random each playthrough. Opening this hidden area, you get a note called Recollection of Paulus Aurelianus, the founder of the Brotherhood and the true Dragonbane weapon.
We should be far from town already. All right, but where would we go? Anywhere. Anywhere that isn't here. And what is that, by the way? A safer place? A less strange place? And where would that be? Life is strange, and we are alive. For now, yes, but for how long? If we decided to flee, we should be far from town already. All right, but where would we go?
Pericles and Agamemnon Baker are two twins who sit on a bench in Temple Church. They do not really say much and talk in riddles, saying that they are waiting for someone to help them leave the city. They literally just sit there and only get up to go and have a chat with each other privately. Eavesdropping on them, they act really weirdly. Firstly, Pericles is leading the charge, talking about leaving London, with Agamemnon needing to be convinced. But then Pericles sits down, and now he's the one that needs to be convinced by Agamemnon. All of their hints are the same as one another, and that's it really. They're just a weird duo. If you embrace Pericles, Agamemnon becomes a Scowl and you can fight him in Temple Garden Park. If you embrace Agamemnon, Pericles actually joins the Guard of Priwen, which seems a bit random. Killing them, you can loot their watches, which are both broken. Pericles' watch only has the hour hand, and Agamemnon's watch only has the minute hand, adding more weirdness to their mystery.
These maggots have escaped the wrath of Ascalon for too long. It is time to purge the sewers of their filth.
You again! The one they call the sewer dog.
Hold your tongue, newborn, or I'll crush you like a maggot.
You've let the beast consume you.
Finally! A touch of lucidity.
The reason why many people don't like this game is because of the combat. I played this on mouse and keyboard, and the targeting of enemies was rough. You can move your mouse in a direction and it automatically changes the target, which is really stupid. It's a bit repetitive and janky, but if you look past that, it's not as bad as it seems. I actually kind of enjoy the combat. There's 4 different weapon types in the game: one-handed, two-handed, guns and stakes. With a one-handed weapon, you can pair it with another one-handed gun or stake. Different enemies have different strengths and weaknesses, and the game encourages you to change weapons to make fights easier. The game does encourage you to kill citizens though, not only for XP, but they also have useful weapons they drop. Some notable ones are from Dr. Tippets or Edwina. It depends on what weapons you like the most. You also have your vampiric abilities that you can use in battle to give you the upper hand. I really didn't explore these abilities at all. I kind of found what worked for me and kept it. You have a blood bar, which acts as a mana bar. You can gain blood from enemies by staggering them and then sinking your teeth in. You do this by using an offhand, like a stake, or parrying them. You can then use your blood for abilities. The main one is autophagy, which you use some blood to heal your health. The other abilities are split into defensive, offensive, tactical, and ultimate abilities. I basically only used Shadow Mist for a regular ability and Abyss as my ultimate. I mainly focused on upgrading passive abilities, which can improve biting power and health taken, blood capacity and regeneration, amount of health and stamina you have, and increasing storage capacity for medicine and gun ammunition. As for enemies, there's not much variety. I don't really think the combat is supposed to be the main focus of the game, so I'll give it a pass. You mainly have the Guards of Priwen or the Scowl types, including Ekons and Volkods, with some slight variants. The Guard of Priwen have quite a lot of different types. Some shoot a shotgun, revolver or crossbow, and some fight with swords or torches. There's even one that sprays chemical gas at you. The hardest and most unique of the Guard of Priwen are the Chaplains, which specialise in holy damage, deadly to a vampire. They have massive crosses and can light you on fire, restoring health for themselves and others around them, and also temporarily stunning you by shining the cross in your direction. Another thing to note is that biting or killing a Guard of Priwen member doesn't have any effect on your morality, despite them being human. Next is Scowls, basically rabid vampires. There's Dazed, Rogue, and Blinker Scowls. Dazed and Rogue Scowls are basically the same. They run at you to try and bite and claw you. The Blinker Scowl, however, has the ability to teleport around, making the fights more frustrating. Onto Ekons, these are powerful vampire enemies. There's 3 types of Econs: Blood, Rogue and Shadow. As you can imagine, they use different vampire abilities to fight. Blood Econs use spears and can drain your blood supply. Rogue Econs use Blood Barrier to protect them for a time, so you can't hit them. Finally, the Shadow Econ, who uses clones of itself to attack you, and also Shadow Mist on the ground. They are quite hard to fight and gave me the most difficulty. Finally, we have the Beasts and Volkods. Beasts look like werewolves and basically act a bit like Skulls, but are stronger and faster. They can have different appearances. Some look like basic werewolves, while others can appear more Skull-like, with infection spreading across their hairy bodies. Volkods are a large breed of vampires who are really tall and kind of look human. There's only a small amount of these fights, and I seem to remember they were all boss fights. The bosses in Vampire are quite challenging, but fun to learn in my opinion. If you are going for a no-kill run, they are way harder than you might expect due to you being low level. The first boss, William Bishop, is basically a tutorial. He's fought before you start embracing citizens, and therefore a breeze to fight. The next boss is placeholder guy, John Doe. He's fought in the morgue where you go in for supplies. He fights like William Bishop, as he's a regular scowl with a boss health bar. Shortly after this is the Sewer Beast. He's the first werewolf you fight in the game, and can be quite tough as he moves quickly, and you don't have an awful lot of resources at this point. There's also a few fights with the Garda Priwen. There's Vincent and Toby Sheen and Jimmy the Spark Barlow. Vincent shoots his shotgun close range, Toby with a crossbow from afar, and Jimmy with a flamethrower. The first hard boss fight is Fergal, who you fight in the sewers. He has a blonde half mohawk and a dapper suit, which looks quite funny. He makes clones of himself that you have to try and avoid. He attacks by punching you or stomping on the ground. Next is Mary. I think she's the hardest boss in the game. She's so aggressive with her massive cross and vampire powers. Sometimes she vomits blood, which covers the battlefield with red. Obviously, as mentioned before, if you're going for a no-kill run, you can't embrace the priest in the middle of the boss fight. Instead, she will do it, healing her to full health from half, which makes the boss fight harder. But if you don't care, definitely embrace him, as it will be easier on you. After this, there are a couple of scowl bosses. There's Eliza Mulani and a double fight with Priscilla and Roger McPherson. They all spit acid clouds, putting poison on the ground. They are not very hard to fight. Priscilla and Roger can be heard arguing before you fight them, showing that they still have a bit of human left in them. It is interesting to note that these people are victims of Doris. Eliza was invited to her acting school, and Roger seemed to have an affair with Doris and brought home the infection to his wife Priscilla. This leads on to fighting Doris herself. This fight is really fun in my opinion. It's very theatrical in true Doris fashion. I like how she bows at you after a combo. She summons other Scowls to help her fight, and at 2/3 of her health, she reveals her massive infected arm, which she'll start battering you with. She can hit you from across the room, which is impressive. Next is Leon Augustin, who is just another Volkod. Nothing special about him, but he's easier than Fergal at this point in the game. He just walks around menacingly and punches you. The second to last boss is Geoffrey McCullum, another very tough fight. This is due to Geoffrey using vampire light traps to his advantage, burning you and taking your health away. You must avoid these spotlights to survive. This is what's difficult about the fight. Other than that, Geoffrey will occasionally shoot you with a crossbow or get up close and personal with a sword. Finally, there's the 2-part disaster boss to end it all. It starts with Disaster Harriet, which is similar to her daughter Doris's fight. Same arm and all. After taking her down, the Red Queen's avatar appears. The main thing is that she summons blood clones which attack you, but her attacks are quite slow, letting you get in some good attacks. At second phase and half health, she wields 2 sickles. She's quicker in this phase and can launch herself at you. It's a decently solid boss fight to end the game, but the highlights are definitely Mary and Geoffrey.
Poor Miss Reid. I leave her alone with the most despicable monster of all, her own son.
Vampire's gameplay, other than combat, focuses on investigating citizens by talking to them and observing the surrounding areas. The more you find out about people, the more hints you learn, leading to more questions to ask them. I loved this, as I feel Vampire did a fantastic job at actually making you want to sit through the dialogue and get a feel for how each person is doing. The more you learn about them, the more XP you can gain if you decide to embrace them, so the game really encourages you to do this. There's also the eavesdropping mechanic, where you can spy on private conversations. You do this by using your vampiric sensors, which can also be used to follow blood trails and find out information about enemies and citizens. The other big gameplay mechanic is the district's health system. There is a meter for each district that can go up and down depending on the health of its citizens. These ranks are sanitized, healthy, stable, serious, critical, and hostile. If the district falls to hostile, everyone will die or disappear from that district. The main part of keeping the district health up is curing the citizens. As a doctor, you can make cures to give them, which you unlock over the course of the game. Some people have more serious health conditions than others, and if you don't heal them and rest, they will get more unwell. And of course, there is the mesmerizing and embracing mechanic. If you have a high enough mesmerize level, you can lure citizens into a dark corner and take their life. You slowly gain a higher mesmerize level throughout the game, so there are some tough cookies that require waiting if you want to embrace them. There's also collectibles in the game, which provide some lore background on different topics. The environmental design in Vampire is truly immersive. It fully captures a gloomy London, back streets with dull lighting, run-down buildings, and rain to set the depressing vibe. The many characters present in the world add to it immensely. Pembroke Hospital feels full of life, despite it being a place of death. Watching the characters go around and attend the different patients is amazing, doing what they can to help in the pandemic.
Still more coming. How can we be sure we're making a difference?
My sweet girl. Reads me like a book. I never could keep anything from her.
Then you have Whitechapel. It feels bleaker, more run down. It's definitely the poorest place in the game. People seem more rough around the edges here, and there's a lot more on the streets homeless.
Bad times indeed.
Unable to see the true horror around you. These are bad times. Bad times indeed.
The docks, despite having some nasty people, seems better off than Whitechapel. They have a well-equipped pub that is clean. The night shelter has seen better days, but the market outside is well kept.
Are you certain you're not lost, sir?
Then finally, the West End, the poshest place and the rich district. The main street is really magnificent, with large buildings that aren't boarded up like other places, and generally well-kept architecture like marble statues. There's a lot of small environmental details in Vampire. Take for example the train that goes by every so often. Another is that Lady Ashbury is painting a portrait of Jonathan in her mansion, and as the game progresses she slowly finishes it. There's also a plant in your room that you can revive with fresh water, if you can find some. Jonathan for some reason names the plant Lisa. There's so much more, but I encourage you to enjoy the game yourself. My personal favourite area is the temple-covered market. Clearly it's been abandoned and taken over by enemies, but you can go into some of the shops. The amount of detail in them is amazing. Posh clothes still on their mannequins, and a massive bakery with all its produce still out. Doris Fletcher's theatre is also amazing. It's gone into disrepair, but you can tell it was a once loved place that many people would come to enjoy shows. Doris puts on a show herself, and you can go onto the balconies and watch her rehearse. You can also go backstage, looking in dressing rooms. It's all just so well made. This world might be one of the best I've experienced in a game.
I'm a doctor, Miss Fletcher.
Doris Fletcher is no more. All that remains are the dreams of the queen she was. And the queen she'll be. Until then, all shall die, for that was her final wish.
I say this for most games I play, but the soundtrack for Vampire is amazing. A lot of it has an eerie sort of vibe to it, which is really fitting when you are going around the back streets of a plagued London. Lots of string instruments are used, adding a dramatic effect to a lot of the music. Here are some songs that I haven't played throughout the video which stand out to me. The sound design is also great, especially with the voice acting. Each person has their own unique personality, which is elevated with their voices. They also have dialogue outside of talking to you, mentioning stuff about their daily lives. There are some bugs with some audio, where you might hear a fight going on from behind a wall loudly. I mostly found this outside the gates in the docks, but a lot of it is well done. The squeakings of the rats, the distant screams of the scows, the rain pattering down. It really does immerse you and sets the tone for this bleak world. Vampire isn't for everyone, but if you like a story-rich game filled with post-World War London history with a helping of vampires, this game is perfect. Its dialogue is heavy but so refreshing, addressing social aspects that were present in 1918 with incredibly interesting characters to talk to. The setting and world is amazing, and the whole vibe is just flawless in my opinion. It will probably always be one of my favourite games. Thank you for watching.